and Zubin. Weekday mornings at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, your smart speaker, or on ESPN News. Is it Jimmy Buckets time?
Clutch time! Jimmy Butler delivering!
Or is it the problem time?
Tatum squares for three and buries it!
Will it be Shimmy Shake time?
Curry right corner three, indeed!
Or the claw time?
Leonard drives hard, flushes!
It's NBA on ESPN time. Celtics Heat at 7:30 Eastern. Clippers Warriors at 10. Wednesday on ESPN. Presented by State Farm.
We need your help. We need money for research. It may not save my life. It may save
someone you love.
Because of all the donations, mine is one of the lives that's been saved.
Donating would help get better treatment so more kids can survive. Our moms cancer.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
To donate, go to v.org/donate.
Are you ready for the start of the NFL playoffs? Ready for can't miss, high stakes, win go home matchups featuring the NFL's best teams and some of the league's biggest stars? Are you ready for a mega cast featuring 360-degree coverage, getting you inside the game like never before? Are you ready for NFL Wild Card Weekend? Starts January 9th on ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Deportes, and Freeform.
The Mina Kimes Show, featuring Lenny.
We're really talking like best coach, best team. Like Matt LaFleur should be in the conversation, right? But like
Andy Reid too.
Andy Reid every year, right? But it is kind of like a most improved award, and it really feels to me like these last few games matter because I gotta say, and I'm not saying this is right, I think the Browns losing to the Jets really hurt Kevin Stefanski, who was getting some buzz.
Listen and subscribe to The Mina Kimes Show, featuring Lenny, wherever you listen to podcasts.
We are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Into the end zone goes Chris Olave. KJ Hill, 6-yard touchdown catch. Right sideline and down he goes to the end zone.
WING 1410 Dayton's ESPN Radio. It's the Justin Kinner Show, live here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM. Tweet the show at 1410 Kinner or give us a call at 457-9464. We now send you to the Wing Studios in Kettering. Here's your host, Justin Kinner.
All right, everybody, we welcome you in. It is the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Kinner and Kev with you live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. We are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes, and we have one more game remaining a week from tonight, the national championship game. The Ohio State Buckeyes against Alabama with the title on the line. Ryan Day looking for his first championship as a head coach, and we cannot be more excited, not just for him, but for this Buckeye team. Keep in mind, this is year number 7, Kev, of the college football playoffs. We've seen Clemson win it twice. We've seen Alabama win it twice. We've seen LSU win it once, Ohio State win it once. Ohio State looking to join Alabama and Clemson as the only teams to have more than one national title throughout the college football playoff era, and they have a huge opportunity coming up a week from tonight. But we'll focus on the Ohio State-Alabama matchup coming up here in just a moment. Let's look back at that matchup with Clemson, because I think the one thing, no matter how cocky Buckeye fans could be, a lot of Buckeye fans expected that this team could beat Clemson. I knew they could beat Clemson. I picked Clemson to win. I ain't going to lie to you. I picked Clemson to win. I can't deny it. But I had to stick to that, Kev. I've been picking Clemson to win the national title back from my predictions, back before the season even started, the first and second time before it even started. So I had to stay consistent. And to be honest, Ohio State did not look as – their best game of the season happened to come at the most exact perfect time that it possibly could happen. I picked Clemson to win the national championship, which ultimately meant I had to pick Clemson to beat Ohio State. I had to stay consistent. But that Buckeye team, that night, I think we can all say, okay, we expected that they were good enough to win, but I don't think anyone out there expected them to win the way that they did. They literally demolished Clemson. There was a gap. There was a huge gap between the quality of play from both teams. You can't just say Clemson didn't play good. They didn't play good because Ohio State did not let them play good. Ohio State won that game by all means. Clemson didn't play bad. Clemson didn't have an off night. No. Clemson got out-coached. Clemson got outplayed. And Clemson was the second best team that night, and rightfully so. Ohio State has earned their shot to play for a national title coming up. And you know what? I'm not one to I don't buy into the whole, they were fueled by everyone's doubt. I hate that mentality. You should just want to win a national title regardless of what people are saying anyways. But you know what? I felt that. I felt the hatred. I felt the dislike on both sides. It was a hard-hitting game. It was one of my favorite games of all time. And not just because Ohio State won, because I just love rivalry games. I love games where teams hate one another, where the coaches despise one another, the fans hate one another, the players despise one another. And we got one hell of a game. Ohio State not just winning, but destroying the Clemson Tigers. And really, Dabo, I'm surprised he could give a press conference with all that egg on his face.
It was awesome to watch. You know, you watch the first drive that Clemson gets. They go straight down the field on our defense and score a touchdown right off the bat. And the second defensive series for Ohio State, and as a matter of fact, don't forget, we went 3 and out on our very first drive, and Clemson gets the ball back. And the biggest adjustment was we went away from the 1 high safety look that we've been doing since last season. They went to a 2 high safety look. They moved Williamson out of the slot and moved him all the way back to the high safety, and had more of a rover position for Proctor. And they really left Wade and Pete Warner on the wide side of the field and rolled coverage to the other side of the field. Wherever ETN went, that's where they rolled coverage to basically take him away. They made Clemson drive the length of the field. They didn't give up too many explosive plays. They basically said, keep everything in front of you. We're going to tackle. And then once it became a situation where Ohio State had to lead from a dominating performance on offense, the defensive line really could pin their ears back and get sacks on the quarterback. You want to talk about the 2 DTs for Ohio State. You know, they dominated that game. I personally think they should have split the defensive MVP award in half. You know, the way they shut down the run game, the way they affected the passing game for Clemson, it was an outstanding performance from our defense, something that we haven't seen too much this season. So I'm really proud of the Buckeyes, and obviously I'm proud of that offense.
Absolutely. And let's be clear. You know, I thought about this. I talked about this with Keith Byers yesterday. Keith brought up that he believes that this team, there's a lot of parallels between this potential championship run and the championship run we saw the Buckeyes make back in 2014. And I was like, I don't really see it, because we say it all the time. This season is unlike anything we've ever seen. Right. So I don't buy into that there are parallels between this run and any others. But as usual, Keith's played at the highest of levels and knows way more about football than I know. So he was absolutely correct. The more I started thinking about it, and the reasons that he gave were, when you start looking at the one thing, like, the story of the game was Justin Fields, obviously, you know, getting hurt and hit hard, by the way. It was a hard-hitting game. And by the way, the irony, there are football gods. I don't know if believing in God is people's thing or not, but if you believe in football gods, you have to, because here's why. The irony in it, the crazy, I mean, especially towards the end when they were going to reverse that potential call, you know, there was just a lot of peril. You had the team's best defensive player get ejected because of a targeting call. That was the same as last year, except Ohio State was on the receiving end of that. And then you had what could have potentially been a controversial call late in the game that could have been overturned as far as, you know, was it a fumble or not? I didn't think it was a fumble. Or I thought it was a recovery. I'm sorry. I thought that, you know, he had his hand on top of it. I thought that was, you know, it was down. The second he was down, he had his hand palmed on top. I thought he was down, but it doesn't matter. I don't really want to get into that. Okay, we did enough of that last year. But again, there was a controversial play there where we were talking about the officiating. We were talking about the targeting rule. It was the same exact thing, just completely different outcome, a different type of game. Ohio State took care of business the way that they were supposed to. But Keith Byers brought up a great point. The parallels are this. The story of the game was obviously Justin Fields, threw for 6 touchdowns, gets hit hard early, leaves the game. But here's where the parallels start coming into play from this year's team compared to the national championship. And it actually started more than a week ago in the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern. When you look at the job, if you look at the one thing that has changed the most for Ohio State, and it's kind of crazy because I never thought that the running game for Ohio State was bad. But what was the biggest difference that we saw in Ohio State going back to 2014? That team was good all year. They were winning games all year. Sure, they had J.T. Barrett taking over from Braxton Miller. Then he goes out against Michigan. And then here comes a stranger named Cardale Jones, who we thought was the reason that the offense went to the next level. Mm-hmm. When really, we thought Zeke was just dominant all season. But no, Zeke was not dominant all season. Zeke was a very good running back all season. Zeke was not dominant all season. Zeke was dominant in the Big Ten championship game against Wisconsin. He was dominant in the game against Alabama, and he rushed for over 200 yards again against Oregon. He averaged 200-plus yards a game in the final 3 games of the 2014 season. Well, guess what we're up to right now? You look at the biggest difference maker in that Big Ten championship game against Northwestern. You had 330 yards or whatever it was that Trey Sermon had against Northwestern. The story of the game on Friday night was, of course, Justin Fields. But really, if Justin Fields didn't have that big game that he did, we're talking about another humongous performance from Trey Sermon, who rushed for 193 yards. Mm-hmm. He's averaging 200 yards a game right now over the final two. If he goes on to have another big performance against Alabama, this is going to be the same type of situation where the offense just really opened up more comfortably because of that. The one thing I was surprised by, Kev, is Dabo Swinney made a smart-ass comment about, watching film, it shouldn't take that long. There's only 6 games, which, by the way, is clever. I mean, come on. I know it's against the team that we cheer for, but, Dabo is very clever with his drops, okay? Let's be clear. Like, I mean, me, of all people, I appreciate a good troll game, okay? Let's just be clear, all right? I appreciate a good troll game. Dabo's is on point, but the problem is, just like me, it usually blows up in my face anytime I try being a troll and it doesn't work out well. So here's the deal. Dabo Swinney only has 6 games of film to watch for this Ohio State team. I could tell you that there's 2 games that you really needed to watch that would have told you all you need to know about this Buckeye team. Put pressure on Justin Fields. Why didn't we see more blitz packages? Why did we not see them try to put pressure on Justin Fields? Now, sure, the offensive line did a great job of giving him time to throw up front, but the reason that you did not see those blitz packages, the reason that you did not see them putting the pressure on Justin Fields is because, yes, Justin Fields is the story of the run so far. No pun intended here, but yes, the run is actually the story, and that's the run game. Trey Sermon is why Justin Fields did not get that pressure put on him. If Trey Sermon's not running the way he is, Clemson is saying, you know what, screw it. We're going to send everything in the kitchen sink at Justin Fields and put pressure on him. They couldn't. They had to respect the run game. And people all year have been saying that run game has been respectable from the very beginning. It was good from the very beginning. It's been great. And when you have a great running game, which the Buckeyes do right now, you can't blitz. You can't continue to put the pressure on Justin Fields because Trey Sermon's going to run right past you. You couldn't stop him even when you weren't putting the pressure on Justin Fields. So again, Trey Sermon, Kev, it's Justin Fields was the talk of the town, and rightfully so. I'm not taking anything away from him. He deserves it. He's one tough SOB. But Trey Sermon right now has been the MVP of this team. He has really taken this team that has been playing very good offensively all year and taken them to that next level. Because of that, I mean, Zeke is why Cardale Jones was able to come in and air it out. I was wrong. I was like, Cardale Jones, he's why. He's why they went. No, Zeke running for 200 yards a game is what allowed Cardale Jones to be comfortable in that pocket. Justin Fields right now is comfortable in that pocket because the defenses have to respect what Trey Sermon's bringing to the table. Trey Sermon, I cannot say enough about how impressed I've been with his play as of late.
Can't forget about the guys up front. Without the guys up front, Trey Sermon wouldn't be hitting these holes and getting downfield. I believe he averaged 8 yards per carry before he was contacted. So he's at the second level of defense before he's even touched. So we got to give respect to the big boys up front. But it's absolutely correct. Trey Sermon has been reborn because this Trey Sermon hasn't been seen since his freshman year at Oklahoma. Since that game that Baker Mayfield came and planted the flag. This is the Trey Sermon that everybody was expecting to get at Oklahoma his sophomore in his junior year until he got banged up. He just didn't have that burst. And then when he transferred to Ohio State, everybody looked back at his freshman year and said, oh, man, he gets behind this offensive line. He gets into the Buckeye culture. He's going to be explosive. We didn't see that early in the season, whether it is him not hitting the hole, him getting comfortable in the new offense, whatever the case may be. He's in the groove now. And another person in the groove is our head coach and our play caller, Ryan Day. There's something that we talked about on the pregame before everything went down with the game was I wanted to see Ryan Day in his bag, really calling plays, really dialed into a zone, getting us in and out the right play. Something that they pointed out on the broadcast was how quickly Ohio State would do a sugar huddle and come to the line and snap it right away.
Why they do that? Remember
so
why they
can't steal
there you
signals.
Go. Yep.
They're getting it in. They're going quick. And that's something else to be said, not only about Coach Day, but the entire coaching staff. That's great coaching because you just can't do that. Like, it looks easy. They make it look easy. Great people and great teams make things look so easy. But you go try teaching that technique to a team that doesn't do it or who isn't disciplined enough. They haven't been doing that all season. This is something new. Or maybe they've been practicing it all season, expecting to be at a place where they could execute this. We don't know that, but what we do know is they haven't broke it out all season. And for them to break it out with 12 days of practice, because, normally they get like almost 20, 30 days of practice going into these big time bowl games. They've done this in 12 days of practice, basically said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to implement this. And they implemented it to perfection. Whatever call they were using to go fast, they got lined up and snapped it and caught Clemson shifting and out of place. That's great coaching right there. And when you have great coaching with great players, you get results like you did the other night.
Yeah, that's the one thing, and too, that's what I loved about what Ryan Day did. And look, say what you want about the Big Ten. I don't want to get into a strength of conference discussion, but I think that because you do play in the Big Ten, and let's be honest, the competition level was, it's not as great as some of the other conferences out there. That's not a shot or a dig, and I'm not trying to get into a strength of conference discussion right now. But Kev, that's the thing. That's how deep and talented Ohio State is they threw in a lot of new looks against Clemson that I think that Ryan Day, and by the way, the stuff in his head, man, like he has so many play designs like that and concepts in his head that he doesn't even unleash until the biggest games of the season. Like, you don't just go throw everything out there for people to dissect on film.
Right.
And it was a very vanilla offense for the first 8 weeks of the season and the weeks that they did play, So for me, I thought Ryan Day did a fantastic job. I did not think he coached a great game in the Big Ten title game. I was, a lot of people, buyers and others, were questioning his decision making. How much more did you need to see of Sermon before you finally decided to say, hey, we're going to win with the run game today? But you know what? He countered it with one of the best coach games that I could remember at Ohio State. I mean, literally, he dictated that game. I really, Kevin, especially with the way the game started, I thought Clemson, and 457-946, by the way, we'll take your calls, but I thought Clemson was going to come out and dictate tempo. I thought Clemson was going to come out and be, the ruler of the game in regards to Ohio State was going to have to play Clemson's game to win. Ohio State was going to have to play at the pace of Clemson to win the game. That was not the case. I think that even the most diehard of Buckeye fans had to be surprised by how Ohio State dominated in every aspect of the game. Except, defensively, they did let say what you want about Trevor Lawrence, by the way, but dude threw for 400 yards on your defense, on your secondary. But again, it wasn't about that. That's the thing. College football, when we talk about stopping teams offensively, sometimes it's not about stopping them from a yardage perspective. It's situational defense. And I thought Ohio State, on a lot of big third down conversion plays, Kev, they came up huge. I thought that was a lot of, I've never seen a quarterback throw for 400 yards and look so uncomfortable doing it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, the pockets collapsed, and it wasn't really the edge rushers that were doing it until, the fourth quarter. It was really Togiai and Haskell Garrett creating that pressure up the middle. So he has nowhere to step up. Like, we commended Trevor Lawrence for using his legs last year and, everything like that. And he can use them, but he's not a runner. You know what I'm saying? Those are design runs. Like, we're not worried about him pulling, a college version of Johnny Manziel, getting outside the pocket, making plays downfield, or basically scrambling to make plays. If he's running it, it's a design run or a zone read. So we're not worried about that. So the pressure up the middle where he can't step up and throw the ball. Like on their second drive where the tight end is screaming right down the seam. Like, I almost crapped my pants because he was wide open, but he couldn't hit that throw because the pressure up the middle. The guys up the middle stopped everything from happening because he couldn't put anything on the throw, so he missed him. So that's great defense by the interior guys, and that's why I scream so much about interior line play and offensive line play, because those guys are the heartbeat of your team. Without a defensive line and without an offensive line, all these great toys that we have on the outside, all these wide receivers and tight ends that we have, they can't make anything happen if you don't have protection up front. And especially the style of offense that Ohio State plays when they're passing the ball. These are deep shots down the field. These aren't intermediate routes. These aren't, this offense is not the same. This offense isn't the same offense that Dwayne Haskins ran. Dwayne Haskins, they were running tons of crossing routes and slants and things of that nature. These dudes, Olave and Garrett Wilson and Williamson, they're going deep. They're going deep ball. This is, I won't say backyard football, but what do you do when you play football with you and your buddies? Hit me for the long ball, because that's what looks fun and cool. That's the famous line. I'm open. I'm open. I'm always open. Always open.
But they were open. I couldn't believe how Ohio State was beating those secondary guys down the field. And I don't want to hear, that's because Clemson's not that good. Clemson's good. Folks, why do we always got to diminish the quality of an opponent that we play? Like, you should want to build up the quality of the opponent so that it makes you look that much even better. Like, Clemson is a legit team, and Ohio State was just more legit that night. Like, Ohio State, I'm so happy right now. Like, because that's the thing about the way we do things here. Like I don't do the whole homerism thing when it comes to, they play bad, but I'm going to tell you they played great. Ohio State has not looked good all season. They beat teams because they have more talent than everybody. But that was the game that we were looking for. They didn't have that at any point throughout the season. It even opened, against Nebraska to open up the season, Kev. They didn't look good beating Nebraska, but they got it done. We just can't, we chalked it up to, it's been a weird off season, a weird start to the season, whatever. They came away with the win. Penn State's not a good team. It was an interesting second half. We chalked it up to, it's still early in the season. Then you have Indiana. Well, Indiana's a good team, but again, they still dominated your secondary stuff. It's Indiana's a good team, but it's still early in the season. That was the perfect game, and it could not have come at a more perfect time. And that speaks volumes about Ryan Day getting that locker room's attention. Not that you should have to, but the job that him and his staff did, getting that team locked in and ready to go with everything that's been going on, all the noise over the last couple of weeks, they got the job done. So congratulations to Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. A week from today, Ohio State and Alabama in the national championship game, 1 versus 3. Ohio State looking to join Alabama and Clemson as the only two programs to have multiple national titles throughout this college football playoff era. We're going to open up the phone lines now, 457-9464. We're going to load up the phones. We're going to take calls on the other side of the break. So Jerry and Mike and Eric, sit tight. You're going to be our first calls on the other side. Don't go anywhere, but call in, get your spot in line. Your reaction, the Buckeyes over Clemson, shutting Dabo up, sending Trevor Lawrence, one of the best quarterbacks in the history of college football, out with a loss. Man, this is going to be fun. Let's have some fun. 457-9464. More of the Justin Kinner Show. Kinner and Kev next when we come back.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy, a high near 40. Tonight's going to be cloudy with a chance of snow, a low around 30. And tomorrow will be cloudy with snow, a high near 40. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Propane. 98% of their customers recommend Cullet. If you wouldn't recommend your current supplier, check them out at culletpropane.com.
Does learning a language feel like this?
No habla español?
Hablo.
It's hablo?
Yes.
It's hablo.
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
Since my husband is from Guatemala, I'll apply what I've learned in Babbel to our real life situations.
The app is so easy to use and it's so practical. It helps you learn things that you will actually need.
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
What's in store this week at Staples?
A great start to the new year.
Give your business a head start on the year with everything you need to be organized and productive.
Like storage solutions, the latest tech, and office essentials like paper and ink, all at amazing prices.
And now at Staples, earn 40% back in rewards when you buy any 2 ink or toner cartridges. Shop in store or pick up curbside.
Start the year right and save at Staples. Ends 1/9/21. Limit 4. Curbside available in most stores. Visit staples.com/40 and rewards for details. I'm so sick.
Ooh, honey.
Seriously? I'm sick.
Oh, honey, it's time for DayQuil Severe, honey. It's maximum strength cold and flu medicine with soothing, honeylicious taste.
I love you, honey.
And I love you.
I met the DayQuil. New DayQuil Severe Honey. The soothing, honeylicious daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, power through your day medicine. Use as directed.
Listen to this radio station on the radio.com app. Discover and enjoy your favorite music, news, and talk radio from live stations across the country. Listen anywhere on all mobile and home devices with the radio.com app.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
You knew the risks when you decided to drive drunk. There could be a crash. People could get hurt or killed. But that didn't stop you, did it? You knew you could get arrested. You could incur huge legal expenses, and you could possibly even lose your job. You were well aware of the consequences of driving drunk. But one thing's for sure, you were wrong when you said it was no big deal. Drive sober or get pulled over. This message brought to you by NHTSA.
It's time for some straight talk. Look, we all drop our phones. It happens. You fumble it, crack it, splash it. Well, Straight Talk Wireless now offers this new Platinum Unlimited plan that includes phone protection. Just $65 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data, plus 20 gigs of hotspot, 100 gigs of cloud storage, and more. All on the best network. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. See Mobile Protect terms and conditions at Asurion.com/Straight Talk. Limitations and exclusions apply.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. Dealing with battery problems? We can help you out and get you ready for the colder weather ahead. Let's start with a free battery test. If you just need a free charge, we can help with that too. And if it's time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that fit your needs, starting at just $79.99. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination. Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2019.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
What's in store this week at Staples?
A great start to the new year.
Give your business a head start on the year with everything you need to be organized and productive.
Like storage solutions, the latest tech, and office essentials like paper and ink, all at amazing prices.
And now at Staples, earn 40% back in rewards when you buy any 2 ink or toner cartridges. Shop in store or pick up curbside.
Start the year right and save at Staples. Ends 1/9/21, limit 4, curbside available in most stores. Visit staples.com/40 and rewards for details.
The weather can be unpredictable. Be prepared with windshield wipers that can handle anything. Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades are real-world proven for extreme weather performance, lasting 2 times longer than other blades. New Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades, only available at Walmart.
There's only one original stuffed crust, and it's only from Pizza Hut. The only place that gives you up to 3 toppings on your original stuffed crust for just $11.99. Order yours online at pizzahut.com. Ask or click for limited time offer. Extra charge for more toppings and extra cheese. Exclusions apply.
Baconate in the AM with a Wendy's Breakfast Baconator. Yep, all that bacon with a fresh crack egg. Try one yourself this AM. Free with any breakfast purchase offer in the app. Always be baconating.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kenner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
It's the Justin Kenner Show with Kev Nash. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. All sports, all the time. This is 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. Justin Kenner, Kevin Nash with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. It took 17 full weeks for the Browns to end 18 full years of a playoff drought. And we'll get into the playoff conversation with the Cleveland Browns coming up around the corner. The Cincinnati Bengals wrap up their season. And, of course, they're on the headlines today with the news that they are going to bring back Zac Taylor for another season. We'll get into that coming up around the corner, as well as taking a look at the NFL playoff landscape and what all is to come with that. But again, we got a lot to still dive into with this Ohio State Clemson dissection, as well as what's ahead for the Buckeyes in the national championship. And in fact, I'm excited because coming up here around the corner in hour 3 at 5:15, the voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels, is going to call in and hang out with us for a bit. So we're excited to chat with him. And tomorrow, Kev, we got Brian Billick on, former Super Bowl head coach of the Ravens. He's going to call in to talk a little AFC North. He's now with the NFL Network, so he'll be joining us on the show tomorrow. Plus, we pick up our regular Tuesday visit with Jason Fitz. So we got a lot of big guests for you coming up this week, and we're excited to be bringing you that. But let's dive back into this conversation again when it comes to Ohio State and Clemson. Ohio State, like I said, I don't think we should be surprised at all that they won, but I think everyone is shocked about how they won. Because look, at this point, we expect the 1-4 blowout. The 2-3 game always usually brings us a very good matchup, and that's what it did. Even though 49-28 was the final, it still felt like I wasn't happy at all during the game. I'm like, I'm not going to invest into this yet. I'm not happy yet. So still a lot of time. That fourth quarter was an hour long. It was an hour-long fourth quarter. It just was. I'm like, every time I look at them, like, this game has to be ending soon, right? Man, there's 9 minutes left. And Clemson, if Clemson makes it, a 3-score game with 9 minutes left, that's a lot of time. We could see a team unravel in that amount of time. But give Ryan Day and Ohio State credit. It was, they kept their foot on the gas from the very beginning, and got to give them credit. I'm trying to find this comment. Keep in mind, we're live on Facebook. Search the Justin Kinner Show. You can jump in on the conversation there. I think it was Doug Toby. I'm not sure. Here it is. Doug Toby says MVP of the game should be the trainer for whatever medication they give Justin Fields, at the half and in that tent. That sparked some controversy, but again, it's 2020, 2021. Waking up in the morning creates controversy now, but people are upset that they could have risked his future with whatever they gave him without him not knowing what they gave. Stop. Justin Fields, we're not going to let that be the narrative of what Justin Fields just accomplished. 6 touchdowns. I mean, just absolutely dominating the Clemson defense. Shout out to Justin Fields, who definitely did a number on his draft status, because that thing started to dwindle a little bit, and now he's right back in the conversation. And who knows, depending on what he does against Alabama, it really could be 1A versus 1B when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields come NFL draft time, but that's a conversation for later. Let's go to the phones, 457-9464, your reaction. The Ohio State Buckeyes over Clemson and looking to win a national championship a week from tonight against Alabama. Let's kick things off with Jerry. Jerry, how are you, sir? Welcome.
Doing great, guys. How are you today?
Good. Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year to you, too. Well, I tell you, as a Ohio State fan, I'm sure there's going to be a million people behind me say the same thing. I have a hard time remembering a more satisfying postseason victory than Friday night, because not only did we finally play like I thought we were capable of playing, but we did it against Dabo Swinney and his big mouth. I mean, it was so beautiful. I think, like, you brought up a good point about we finally played a defensive scheme that fit our personnel. I think that helped. And it just looked to me that our offensive line and our defensive line were we were a lot better. I honestly think we may have played against better offensive and defensive lines this year in the conference, to be honest. That Clemson bunch up front, for whatever reason, they just didn't look very good.
They didn't look good, and they didn't bring the pressure too. I was expecting Clemson to say, I really thought it was going to be a long night for Justin Fields. I thought Clemson, who, let's be honest, Indiana has great athletes, Northwestern has great athletes. I was expecting Clemson to be sending the entire house at Justin Fields, and they didn't. And the reason they couldn't is what Kevin and I talked about earlier. The run game, Trey Sermon, they had to respect the run. I think you always respect the Buckeyes' run game, but Trey Sermon's taken it to that next level, the way Zeke did back in 2014 when they had he averaged 100 yards a game that year, but he doubled his yard totals in all those final 3 games against Wisconsin, Alabama, and Oregon, and that's what we're seeing Trey Sermon do here. That was a fun game to watch, and it was just a well-balanced offensive attack, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, and you could tell the guys, they wanted that game bad. They've been looking forward to it for, the stories are out there. They've been planning on this game for over a year. So I am super happy with that effort. I'm super happy they won. I'm super glad we shut Dabo Swinney up. That's so wonderful. I'm just a little concerned about this Alabama game. I mean, first of all, Alabama's got real men on the offensive and defensive line. Devonta Smith and Najee Harris are going to be a problem. They've got, let's face it. I mean, they're the number 1 talented team in the country. We're probably 2, if you just look at recruiting talent. But so I think we can give Bama a good game. I think if we play a perfect game, we can win. But I just hope we don't have any kind of letdown. We were looking for that Clemson game for a while, and I'm just a little worried about a letdown. But either way,
Jerry, real quick here, I was more concerned about the title game matchup with Oregon years ago, because I thought that when Ohio State beat Alabama in the semis back in 2014, I felt the way I do now, where I felt like Ohio State they put it all out there for that game because beating Alabama meant everything. And I was worried that, maybe they were emotionally spent and that, they wouldn't have it all, whenever it came time for the college football national championship game against Oregon that year. But they were able to overcome that. I think it's actually a good thing that they got Alabama in the national title game, because that program keeps their attention. That program keeps their intensity at the same level it was. Because when you're prepping for Clemson, you're prepping for Alabama. They're the same type of program. They're the same elite level program. There's not a drop-off. I thought there was a drop-off between Alabama and Oregon a few years ago in the national title game, which is what concerned me. But I'm not concerned about Ohio State's intensity heading into this. I just hope everyone stays healthy. Byers has been saying it for weeks. Sometimes the best team may not win the national championship, but the most healthy team's going to win one. and that's what we're going to be keeping an eye on moving forward.
Yeah, with COVID, you're right. I hope you're right, too. I mean, I think it'll be a great game, though. I think that Bama team would have blown Clemson out. I think with us, it's going to be a really tough game. I will say one thing when you get to the NFL later. I don't know why the Cleveland Browns are being disrespected by Vegas the way they are. I think it's ridiculous. But just so you know, they've got Cleveland at 18-1, the worst odds to win the AFC, and 50-1 to win it all. That's the worst odds. And then we're talking about worse than Indianapolis and Tennessee, two teams that Cleveland are clearly better than, and way worse than Pittsburgh. So I don't know why the Browns are getting so much disrespect out of Vegas. But I'll say this, the 1980, my Raiders were written off by Vegas, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. And I'm telling you what, the Chiefs can be had.
Yeah.
And I think your Browns are – I'm not going to go out and say they're going to win the AFC, but they're a sneaky good bet, man. At 18-1 to win the conference and 50-1 to win it all, I might have to go lay some money on that.
Well, let me know how that works, Jerry, and we'll get into some NFL discussion coming up around the corner. Look, the Browns, I don't expect them to have a lot of to be favored. I mean, they're not favored to beat the Steelers. I think that's the thing about the Browns. They're capable of beating anyone in the AFC outside of the Chiefs, in my opinion. We'll get into more of that coming up later, but I'm not surprised. I'm not looking. I wasn't expecting Cleveland to be favored in any kind of capacity, whether it be had the odds in their favor, whether it's from a betting line perspective, even the money line, or even as far as what's coming up with Pittsburgh this Sunday night. So we'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But again, Ohio State over Clemson, setting up this national championship game with Alabama. Your thoughts too, because like I said earlier, I was more concerned about the Oregon national championship game than Alabama. I'm not saying I'm not concerned about Alabama. I mean the mentality heading into that game, because I thought that there was so much emotion into that game beating Alabama back in 2014 that I was like, oh man, I hope they didn't just, emotionally invest all their energy into that game and don't have enough left in the tank to, mentally be on the same pace as Oregon. That obviously wasn't the case. I don't think that's going to be the case this time either. I think it helps that you have an Alabama, because the second that they're done focusing on Clemson, you can't take a day off, because Alabama, you should be prepping for Alabama just as hard as you were for Clemson. And I think Ohio State's going to be in good shape heading into that matchup.
Oh, they'll be fine. They'll be fine, because it is that Bama waiting out there. And obviously, they're motivated from last season's situation where they lost to Clemson, but who are they going to play? Bama. That always gets your attention, especially in this recent college football playoff era. Like, they're the Goliath of it. And then Clemson's next. So we took out Clemson. Now, to get our true respect, to join them in the playoff era, winning multiple national championships is their opportunity. So nothing gets you more prepared than a big game, than a great opportunity like this. And I know Coach Day, I have them ready to go.
All right. Where did Ann go? We lost Ann.
Ann.
Ann's on Facebook, though. Ann says, great game. So glad they shut down Dabo. And Justin, congrats, doing much better. I'm assuming because I haven't said. What was the phrase I was
Don't even bring it up.
Yeah. See, Ann, if I say it again, it's your fault. She says, love listening to you guys and glad you are back. We're glad to be back, too. Like, we always look forward to that time off at the end of the year, but I get that itch. I'm like, that's why I snuck back in the studio about once or twice throughout the time off, just because I'm like, okay, we need to be on the air today for at least some of this.
I saw the alerts going off.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, look at this dude. You're like at work, working on his day off. Not me.
I told you, I can't wait for my 2 weeks off at the end of the year. Like, you ain't going to be off 2 weeks. I'm like, I struggle being off 2 weeks, but I'm glad to be back. Glad you're back, and we're all glad to be back with you now, and especially when we're talking about the Buckeyes and the national championship game. Let's go back to the phones, 457-9464. Who we got, Kev?
We got Rob.
Rob, thanks for holding, sir. Welcome.
Welcome to you. There's my prediction for the national championship game.
Is this Robert Miller? Is this from Facebook? Oh, it's Bama Robert. See? Yeah. All right.
I'm going to tell you right now, first team to 40 wins.
Now, see why are you doing this? You were talking so much smack on Facebook, Bama Rob, about how Buckeyes had no chance to beat Clemson, and now all of a sudden it's first to 40 wins.
Oh no, I'm not waffling on this a bit. I'm just telling you the first team to 40 wins. Justin Fields gained a huge amount of respect from me. His performance was more than outstanding. It was probably the best performance of his career, and he needed it. It moved him up the draft poll. I promise you, moved him up. Alabama's got a lot of tools. Ohio State showed me some balls. It's going to be a hell of a football game Monday night. It's going to be epic, and I'm still going to say my Tide's going to win by at least a touchdown.
I love that phrase. That might just be a new sound clip for some of our show promos. I mean, yes, Ohio State showed you some ball. No, look, there was no better time to have your best game of the season come right now, and that's exactly what happened for Ohio State. And look, Clemson showed some vulnerabilities early in the season. I chalked it up to inconsistencies due to COVID and missing guys, but there was no doubt who the better team was that night. Ohio State definitely jumped on them, and they never let up. So I can't wait for this Alabama matchup. I wanted more of Ohio State Bama in the national title game back when Urban Meyer was here. I wanted Urban versus Saban, but Ryan Day versus Saban, that's a pretty good opportunity for Ryan Day to cement his legacy as a Buckeye coach too, which, Rob, I'm sure you don't really care about that.
Oh, I do. Honestly, I do care about that because Ryan Day has impressed me as a head coach and as an individual. Okay, he interviews well. He says all the right stuff. He don't throw rat poison out there. He doesn't do any of that silly stuff that a lot of the coaches do. Let's think about one. Oh, Davo, yeah, he's kind of silly. Okay, so I mean, I'm just looking for an epic battle. My feelings really aren't going to be hurt either way because the better team's going to win Monday night. But here's something else. Sark's leaving. I think he's going to go out with a bang. I don't think he's going to let up his foot off the gas like he did against Notre Dame. I think Alabama played how they needed to play. They beat them. Notre Dame was never in the game. And the Ohio State comeback rally and the fact that Justin Fields got his butt kicked and then came back and led that team to victory was flat awesome.
Hey, Rob, which Alabama player got your vote for Heisman?
Well, I've always said don't sleep on Mac Jones. So I'm not sleeping on Mac Jones because somebody's got to throw that ball to Devontae Smith. And Mac Jones completes like 80% of his passes that are in the air for longer than 25, 30 yards. So, I mean, think about who's dropping a dime.
Yeah, again, receiver, a very dependent position, that's for sure. And that's why ultimately it's almost a quarterback award. Najee Harris, David Shaw on Facebook says Najee Harris, who knows? Alabama's stacked. You know that. We know that.
You get top 5 vote getters in the Heisman. 60% of them were Alabama players.
All right. Hey, Rob, great hearing from you. You're Bama Rob from now on, by the way. Bama Rob, call more, man. We'll talk later.
I will, my friend. Have a good day.
Take care. Good stuff there again, and I'm excited for it. We have a lot of Bama listeners too. That's what's crazy about it.
Who got your vote for the Heisman?
Trevor Lawrence, but I'm swayed. But again, it doesn't matter about what happened in the playoff game.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of polls that don't have him winning it for the same reasons that Justin Fields is not even a finalist, and because not playing enough games and being out. And we knew this year was going to be. It's not about being fair. I don't care. Justin Fields should be a finalist. He didn't play enough games. He didn't play great when he did play. He had opportunities. It's a wonky year, but Najee Harris is something special. Alabama just, they spit out some great running backs, and they're going to keep that going. But it's a quarterback award. It's hard for me to bet against any kind of quarterback winning it. If it's not Trevor Lawrence, it could be Mac Jones. So we'll see.
I gotta go with Devontae Smith, man. Like, he's so smooth, man.
Who's the last receiver to win it?
Desmond Howard.
That far back.
Yeah, Desmond Howard.
And you know what? It's 2020. This would be the year to mix it up a bit.
Right.
And he deserves it. Like,
I thought that, the 1 year Amari Cooper had a chance to, kind of like get up there, but kind of knew it. But this year, such a wonky year. And the reason I would give it to Devontae Smith is because he put up crazy numbers last year with a different quarterback. And now he's got a new quarterback. Like, maybe it's him. Maybe he's the reason why these guys do it. Maybe it's all the Alabama receivers making the quarterback look good. I mean, we talked about Jerry Jeudy and Ruggs going in the first round. Now they're going to have Devontae Smith and the dude with the broken leg. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he's also going in the first round. So in the next two NFL drafts, they're going to have 4 receivers drafted in the first round. So maybe it's the receivers making these quarterbacks look good.
So when Tom Herman takes over as Alabama's offensive coordinator, he's not going to have as many weapons. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sure. I mean, shoot, Amici is the 4th receiver, and he's got over like 600 yards receiving.
Not enough. You step your game up. All right. you're just tuning in, Kinner and Kev with you here. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on Dayton's ESPN radio station. We are Ohio State.
Waddle is the fourth guy that's going to go in the first round for Bama at the wide receiver.
We're Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes. And again, the voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels, he'll call in and join us coming up later on in the show, 3:15. Excited to chat with him. It's been a year unlike any for everyone, but I'm curious to hear from Paul Keels coming up and just how different this season has been from him from a broadcaster perspective, calling games remotely, but being there live for the college football playoff semifinal, and his thoughts as that game progressed in the build to Ohio State, Alabama national championship game a week from tonight, which you can catch right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We have more callers on hold. I promise you we're going to get back to your calls on the other side of the break. More Kinner and Kev, the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash next. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Fever is a leading symptom of the coronavirus, so take your temperature twice a day with the Exergen Temporal Scanner. It's quick and easy to use, and its accuracy is backed by more than 80 clinical studies. Have your family start and end their day with the only home thermometer used and recommended by hospitals, doctors, and nurses. Your family can take their temperatures in seconds to know where they stand in the fight against COVID-19. Protect your family from the spread of this deadly disease and stay safe with Exergen.
Attention Class A CDL drivers. Looking to be more than just a number? Yoel Transportation in Dayton is looking for drivers with at least 1.5 years experience. Yoel has open positions for no-tarp flatbed drivers and no-touch regional or local van drivers. Yoel is ELD compliant and offers 401k with match, medical, dental, vision, holiday pay, vacation, safety bonuses, and now has a rider policy. Call Rick or Joe at 937-294-5933 and ask about the $5,000 sign-on bonus today.
It's game day. Are you ready? If you want your game day meal in a hurry, be sure to stop by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken and pick up a Buckeye bucket with 25 golden brown breast strips for only $29.99. And don't forget to add a large Dr. Pepper for $1. Lee's can make your gathering for the big game famous and take the work out of your perfect party. Buckeye buckets are available daily and limited 2 per customer. Pick up one today. Lee's Famous for Chicken.
Menards has everything you need to keep your home clean. Stop in and check out our entire selection of Livman cleaning products. Livman has a wide variety of mops, brushes, dusters, and brooms to choose from. Pick up a 14-inch angle broom that can be used indoors and out and is great for those tough-to-reach corners. Right now, it's only $8.99. Save big money now at Menards. Prices are good until January 16th.
Save big money at Menards.
Cordell Transportation is now hiring for brand new home daily dedicated lanes. Earn up to $1,620 per week. A $2,000 sign-on bonus, medical, dental, vision, company paid life insurance. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com.
This is Lisa Stofan. Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking. I lost 70 pounds and my friend lost 20 pounds in the first 2 months.
Oh, wow. That's remarkable. That's right. Join Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar and lose the weight, stop smoking, or end anxiety for only $49.99 guaranteed or your money back. Because of coronavirus, seminars are now online live Thursday, January 7th or Saturday, January 9th for Dayton. Details at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com. Register at markpatrickseminars.com. Are you involved with a school or charitable fundraiser that holds an auction, bid and buy booth, or a raffle to raise money? Many of the most popular items at auctions or booths are autographed sports memorabilia items. How can you get great items in your event? Call Adam Walter at Sports Investments. Sports Investments has a consignment program for fundraisers that has provided outstanding items. You select items that are proven sellers, including autographed pieces from Tiger Woods, LeBron James, Joey Votto, The Big Red Machine, the Bengals, the Browns, UC, XU, UK, NKU, Dayton, Louisville, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. Sports Investments consigns the items to your group at a highly discounted price. And when they sell, you keep the profit. You don't pay anything in advance. And if something doesn't sell, you simply return it. You'll enjoy the experience of dealing with the Walter family. Call them at 513-891-5000. Email Adam at sportsinvestments.com or visit them on Montgomery Road, right off I-275. Just 40 minutes from WING.
This is Joe Mazzola, Health Commissioner at Franklin County Public Health. The COVID-19 pandemic is impacting us all in new ways. The stress of COVID-19 has resulted in a rise in drug and alcohol use, and drug misuse can happen in your home. 42% of teens who misuse prescription pills get them from their parents' medicine cabinets. Visit don'tliveindenial.org to learn how to dispose of your leftover pills and talk to your kids about opioids.
If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Get quality candidates delivered from Indeed's resume database immediately when you upgrade your job post. Learn more at Indeed.com/credit.
Don't miss the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays at 3 p.m. on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
So you want to talk about outliers? Those guys are out. You're lucky that this thing's separating us. That's all I got to say. For facts, though. I got your facts right here.
Listen, stream, and now watch. Search the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook to follow along. College football playoffs, Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, and more. Catch the Keith Byers Show Mondays at noon on 1410 ESPN Radio.
The voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Paul Keels, will join us coming up later on in the program, 5:15. He will call in. Excited to chat with him about what he saw this past Friday night of the New Year's College Football Playoff semifinal. The Buckeyes over Clemson, punching their ticket to the national championship. And again, the more I thought about it, 7 years. College Football Playoff is in year 7. And we have only had 4 teams win a national championship during that stretch. 2 for Clemson, 2 for Alabama, 1 for LSU, and 1 for Ohio State. Ohio State looking to join Clemson and Alabama as the only 2 teams with multiple national titles during that stretch. But on the flip side, you look at what Nick Saban has on the line too. He has a chance. Like right now, I mean, when people ask me who the best coach in college football is right now, I'm torn between Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney, just because, again, when you look right now, the college football landscape totally shifted and changed the second that the playoff was implemented. It changed the landscape of recruiting. It changed the landscapes of hiring and approaches to scheduling. I mean, it changed everything about college football. So based on the landscape now, 1A and 1B is Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban in no particular order. But if Nick Saban, who is arguably the best football coach of all time at the college level, wins another national championship a week from tonight, I don't think there shouldn't be any question at all about who the best coach of all time is if Nick Saban does it again. In the 7 years of the college football playoff, for him to have 3 national championships, I'm sorry, Dabo's earned it, but Nick Saban, there's no question about it if he does it. But if Ohio State wins a week from tonight, that's no discredit to Nick Saban and the job he has done, but it opens the door to Ryan Day moving up that poll of one of the best coaches in college football, which I believe he is. But if I have to put out a ranking, Kev, you can't put Ryan Day there yet in the top 2. But you win a national championship, all of a sudden your name is right there in the conversation. Because I thought that, hey, you don't just walk in and replace Urban and automatically take over his status as one of the top 3 coaches in college football. But Ryan Day well on his way to being there.
And Nick Saban has 4 BCS national championships.
Yep.
He's got 3 with Alabama, 1 with LSU. So, there's no question Nick Saban is probably the best college football coach of all time, what he's been able to accomplish in the modern day of college football. College football coaching is more than just X's and O's, because, you look at an X and O's type of coach, you just think about drawing up plays and everything like that. But in college football, the coach is responsible for the whole show. They're responsible for hiring and firing coaches. They're responsible for the recruiting aspect of the game. And then obviously game day and so many more things behind the scenes. You have to kiss hands, shake babies, all that type of stuff with boosters and things of that nature. That's
Wait, why. Time out. Did you say that right?
Probably not.
You can't shake babies. You can't shake people's babies, Kev. Like I'm
kiss babies, shake hands.
The kissing hands thing made sense. Like you kiss it, but then I'm seeing like someone like shaking a baby.
Touchdown.
Holy smokes, Kevin. You just said that. So, yeah, I mean.
As I said it, I was thinking to myself, I think I said that backwards. We know what I'm talking about. But
they have hands and shaking babies.
That's why I always think about when these college coaches make that jump to the NFL. I always think to myself, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? Well, in college football, you're responsible for so many things. But in the NFL, you are solely responsible for the coaching of the game and the X's and O's and everything like that. You don't have to worry about, well, I guess you do, but more you have to worry about guys making grades and in college football. You got to worry about them partying all night or getting into fights. In the NFL, you expect men to be men, but the reality of the situation in college football, you're dealing with young adults doing young adult things. So I honestly think, I used to think, oh man, why would you leave a college job to go to the pros, man? That just seems like more of a headache. But as I think about it, I think the college game is more of a headache, man. I think a lot of these coaches that still coach in college football today, they do it because they love the college game and they love developing young talent.
Justin Kinner, Kevin Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Philip Reed on Facebook, Kev, says that he would rank Dabo as the 11th best coach in college football. And by the way, Buckeye fans, I'm super happy. I'm super happy for you. I'm excited that the Buckeyes are in the national championship game. But if I see one more 11th ranking type of joke or meme or anything, I'm going to rip my eyes out. I was nauseated. I couldn't even enjoy the Buckeyes victory because Buckeye fans were making me nauseous with this constant, oh yeah, Dabo, I didn't rank them 11th. I said they were going to be playing on the 11th. I'm like, guys, stop. This is embarrassing our fan base by acting this way.
How much were you on Twitter and Facebook as the game was going on?
I was on it the whole time, and I was rolling my eyes as we went on. I'm like, folks, big picture, Dabo did nothing wrong by having Ohio State at number 11, especially if you actually, I know the purpose of media is to only take a small clip and post the small clip that's going to generate clicks and headlines and reaction. And the small clip in the small headline, or the big react in the headline was Dabo ranks Ohio State 11th. But you never took the time to go listen to his explanation of he felt in his poll any team that didn't play more than 9 games should not be in his top 10. And he kept, it's not like he had other teams who played less than 9 in there and left Ohio State out. He kept all teams out. There's nothing wrong with that, because had Ryan Day said that in the reversal, you Buckeye fans would be having to, you'd be having to get a new bib because you'd be drooling all over the first one. So I don't want to hear that. We got to stop being so petty. Act like you've been there before. Seriously, Buckeye fans, act like you've been there before. I expect more out of you. Stop being so damn petty. And then today, I get on Twitter and Facebook and, Nick Saban had him ranked 5th. Get out the pitchforks. Stop. It's fine that you were the thing is, you only played 6 games. You're fortunate that the committee, who is made up of human beings who gets to vote on these things, all voted and said it's okay that you only played 6 games. Because they could have very well easily have said, yeah, you didn't play enough games. We can't play. A rational decision from the committee could have very well been, Ohio State, we appreciate the work you put in. We know you're one of the top 4 teams. We can't punish teams who play more games than you. So we got to put them in. Stop being petty, Buckeye fans. You're better than that. Act like you've been there. Stop with the Dabo stuff. If you need Dabo to get you motivated to play a game, then maybe Dabo should be paid extra, because apparently he is motivating and running 2 programs. He's running Ohio State and Clemson. If you're that petty that you think that Dabo Swinney needs to say things to motivate you to play, I feel bad for you. Do better than that. New Year, same me. Sorry. I was doing so good, but I was so sick of seeing the stupid number 11 jokes on Facebook and Twitter. It's nauseating.
It was really funny. Night of it was funny.
Yeah, but the problem is people think that they're the first to come up with it. They think that they're the first. Oh man, I bet no one has made a joke about the 11th. Not bad for the 11th best team in the country. Oh wait, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You're better than that.
You know what? We're about to see 2 different styles. Dabo explained himself to the media why he ranked Ohio State 11th. When the media asks Nick Saban why he ranked them 5th, he's going to tell them one time and one time only. And then after that, you're going to see the old man go crazy on people.
Yep.
So I'm here for it.
Quit asking. Quit asking.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be epic. I mean, you saw him on Saturday. Was it Saturday? Or I don't forget what day was in game played on.
I don't even know what day it is today, Kev. It's Monday. But
they played on Friday. So the semifinal where they played Notre Dame. So at halftime, COVID safe and everything like that. They have the coaches put on the headphone. They're standing over here by a microphone. The reporter's asking them questions. I can't hear you. He's going ballistic, man. So I can't wait for Nick Saban to go crazy about him ranking Ohio State 5th. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
And again, real quick, too, Clemson, Dabo Swinney said, I can't believe I'm having to defend him, but I'm tired of the overused headlines. But he didn't say anything wrong. He really didn't. He did it. He even said after, look, it's my poll. He even said my poll means nothing, but it is my poll. And if I'm going to fill it out, I'm going to take pride in the poll I'm filling out. I'm going to hold, I think it's wrong that teams who didn't play X amount of games get in over teams who had more chances to lose. And that's a great explanation. These teams had more of a chance to lose because we think that, just because games, on paper, Ohio State was a lock. Well, the year that they lost to Purdue and Iowa, that wasn't a lock, or that was what we thought was a lock. And yet, look, but again, this year there were games knocked off the schedule that Ohio State could have been tripped up against that we never would have known. So again, I'm not here to rain on the Buckeye parade. I'm not. Just stop with the Dabo Swinney jokes, because Dabo did say Ohio State's good enough to beat us, ain't good enough to win a national championship. But I didn't see anybody using those as clickbait links on there, because again, that's not going to get it. Dabo said something nice about us. That's not going to get a Buckeye blogger site a bunch of clicks. No, but hey, he ranked us 11th. That's where we got to go. All right. Hour 1 in the books. I see Jake waiting on hold. I see Nick and Tyler and Eric. I promise you're coming up next. Don't go anywhere. But more Buckeye talk. Clemson, Ohio State best Clemson this past Friday night. And that sets up Ohio State, Alabama in the national championship game. I can't tell you how excited I am about that. And don't worry, Browns fans. We're switching gears to some NFL talk after we're done taking the Buckeye calls. The Cleveland Browns over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, that sets up Cleveland-Pittsburgh round 3, this time for real, though, coming this Sunday Night Football. NFL wildcard round, Browns and Steelers. I cannot wait for that. We'll be back in a moment. More of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Hour 2 next.
Playoffs? It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
It's, oh my God, the NBA, it almost is sacrosanct.
I mean, people are on the ground ripping open testing kits.
We all have it. There's no way we all don't have it. You knew that the direction of the entire 2020 year for the whole world just took a massive turn.
30 for 30 podcast presents March 11th, 2020. Available now, wherever you get your podcasts.
It's time for some straight talk. Look, we all drop our phones. It happens. You fumble it, crack it, splash it. Well, Straight Talk Wireless now offers this new Platinum Unlimited plan that includes phone protection. Just $65 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data, plus 20 gigs of hotspot, 100 gigs of cloud storage, and more. All on the best network. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. See Mobile Protect terms and conditions at Asurion.com/Straight Talk. Limitations and exclusions apply.
I'm Erin Russo, and I've had 15 years of ICU experience.
My name is Lisa Burrich. I've been an ER nurse for 7 years.
My name is Jasmine Shavers, and I've been working in ICU for 2 years now.
I think the scariest part of COVID is that it's unpredictable. It is life-threatening. It is serious.
Some patients tell us they didn't think the virus was real, and then they need a ventilator to survive.
Patients arrive to the ER in respiratory distress, and they are placed on a ventilator for weeks to sometimes a month.
You can't imagine the level of fear. They are alone. They're with no one familiar. And the hardest part is when they ask us to hold their hand because they don't want to die alone. I beg the public to take this virus more seriously.
Nothing is more important than your life. People really need to be responsible, wear a mask, socially distance.
To beat this virus, we need your help. Please.
A message from the Ohio Department of Health.
2020 has been a hard-hitting year for all of us, but specifically for our veterans. Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission will be holding a new winter coat giveaway for all qualifying veterans on Friday, January the 15th at the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission, located at 627 Edwin C. Moses Boulevard, 4th floor, East Medical Plaza. For coat qualifying requirements, go to mcvsc.org or call 937-225-4801.
Ready to complete your degree? Ohio Dominican University offers high-demand degree completion options 100% online. Pursue your bachelor's in high-demand fields such as business, risk management, and more. Ohio Dominican's affordable tuition means an ODU degree not only fits your schedule, it also fits your budget. Earn your degree online from an accredited university that has called Columbus home for over 100 years. Take the first step at ohiodominican.edu/adult.
Staples has everything you need to start the year right, like home office furniture, the latest tech, and organizational supplies, and all at amazing prices. Get a fresh start this year with big savings from Staples.
There are many ways to catch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. You can catch it live right here on 1410 Wing AM, or you can stream the show at wingam.com. But now we have another way that you can take in the show. You can now watch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live on ESPN Dayton's Facebook page. Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER and ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle. We are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Into the end zone goes Chris Olave. A.J. Hill, 6-yard touchdown catch. Right sideline and down he goes to the end zone.
WING 1410 Dayton's ESPN Radio.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on 1410 Wing AM. All right, so now that we are starting off a new year and we're back to a regular schedule and we're going to be here Monday through Friday now, we want to continue to urge you to continue to go and subscribe and download the Justin Kinner Show podcast in your Apple iTunes and Google Play Store. After every show, the show is uploaded in its entirety, as well as select segments and all interviews, including the one that we're going to be doing with Paul Keels, the voice of the Buckeyes, coming up here just around the corner. So we're excited about that. Paul Keels joining us here at 5:15, just over an hour from now. We'll chat with him, the voice of Ohio State football, basketball, and more. So make sure you keep it locked in here for that as we'll continue our reaction to Ohio State over Clemson. What a game that was. And again, we can't live in the past too much with Clemson because a team that is just as capable, if not better, in Alabama coming up a week from tonight in the national championship game. Tony Elliott, the offensive coordinator for Clemson, who missed the game with Ohio State Clemson this past weekend, is rumored to be replacing Steve Sarkisian with Alabama, Kev, who, of course, will be coaching or will be the offensive coordinator one final time with Bama before taking over the Texas job. Texas moved on from Tom Herman this past weekend, which I thought was one of the more bigger headlines in the college football world. Tom Herman, of course, there was rumors that Texas was going hard after Urban Meyer. Once Urban Meyer put that to bed, it appeared that Texas had recommitted to Tom Herman for another year, but obviously that's why I've said the second you have mentally moved on from someone, you don't mentally come back and embrace them in the same way you did before. You're always going to have that wandering eye, right? And, well, Texas did have that wandering eye, and they found Sarkisian, who many people believed was going to be the heir apparent to Nick Saban when Nick Saban was down at Alabama. So now that these dominoes are starting to fall all over the place, or at least we're anticipating the fall, if we end up seeing Elliott take the job at Alabama, which you're seeing other reports and rumors as well, I could potentially, I think it would be interesting to the rivalry of Ohio State Clemson to see Tom Herman take over the offensive play calling duties at Clemson or potentially take over Sarkisian's duties at Alabama. I like him in those roles, but me and you were talking during the break. You like Tom Herman more. You still think he is a good quality head coach. I don't think he's a bad quality head coach at all. But I do think that sometimes when you're a Tom Herman, go resurrect your career again. Go get your name built back up as one of the top offensive play callers in football, which we know he's capable of being, and then get that next big job that comes out. I don't see the purpose in taking a step back, taking a lesser job. We saw Charlie Strong do that with, was it UCF or USF? Who did he go to?
Yeah, he went from Louisville to Texas to UCF. Yeah.
And Charlie Strong now on Alabama's staff,
right.
Coincidentally enough. He has a random title, by the way. But my point is I don't know what the best route is for Tom Herman. In my opinion, go to Clemson, go to Alabama, replace one of those individuals there. But you still like him as a head coach in college.
Yeah, just one quick thing about Tony Elliott. I don't understand that move. Like, I mean, I know it's a rumor, so it could be true, could be
true. There's nothing final.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you're going from the number, quote unquote, 2 team to the number 1 team. Like, it's almost like, what do I call that? Unilateral move. Like, I would expect him to try to take a head coaching position. I mean, obviously, we're not behind the scenes. We're not on there with him and his family and everything. He might be from Alabama for all we know. I just thought that was weird. But as for Coach Herman, I just don't understand. This is something I was talking to my brother about. This Texas thing. Like, people like think Texas is like great. When has Texas been great over like the college football landscape? You know, would they have besides the 6-year run with Vince Young and Colt McCoy, Texas football has been average. And that's not just in the 90s. That's in the 80s. That's in the 70s as well. Like their heyday was in the 60s. So that 6-year gap with Vince Young and Colt McCoy, that's like their golden era. That's their best era of football. They won a national championship. They played for another. But after that, they've shown themselves to be Alamo Bowl, Holiday Bowl, Texas Bowl. That's the team that they are. And before that 6-year run with Vince Young and Colt McCoy, they shown themselves to be Alamo Bowl, Holiday Bowl, and Texas Bowl. So I don't understand why people put Texas football on this pedestal like that. And then people will go to say like, oh man, they're in Texas, it means more. Texas is the biggest state in the union. They got so many D1 prospects. Well, you know where the D1 prospects go? We got 2 of them playing at Ohio State at wide receiver. Then their quarterbacks end up going somewhere in the SEC. Then their offensive linemen end up going to Oklahoma to play football. So I don't see like this allure with Texas football that everybody else does. And furthermore, the allure of Texas football in general in college football, because Texas A&M hasn't been relevant since the First World War. That's a very long time ago, if you didn't know. Baylor, they had one relevant season ever. The year they got knocked out of the 4th slot for the national playoff in college football, and Ohio State took their 4th spot. So this whole like Texas, like, yo, they should be better. They should be of the elite. Yo, it's been over 40 years. Prove it. Like, I don't understand why people put them up there. That's just where I'm at with it. I don't know where you are with it. I just can't get down with that. I'm not about to give somebody a whole bunch of props for something that somebody did back in 1960.
Well, I think that, I mean, you brushed past it a little bit with the talent alone. If there was a rule that you could only recruit your state players, Texas would be a national title contender every year. If Texas got the best players at every position from their state alone, they would be a national title contender every year. And I think that what we've seen, I mean, look, if the greats like Nick Saban and even Dabo at this point and Urban Meyer and Ryan Day's picked up where, you know, he's left off, and even the job Lincoln Riley's done in Oklahoma, the greats always can get players from all over the country to come to you. But again, that's because sometimes, hey, there are just better players at certain positions. But when you're at Texas, work smarter, not harder. Why go try to pull guys from all over the country when you have the most talented players in the country almost on a yearly basis right there? I think the mindset is if you get the right guy, like Urban Meyer would have been the right guy. Urban Meyer, like Buckeye fans, let's just be real. As much as you loved Urban, you would learn to hate him real quick. Because as much as you love Ryan Day, he's not out recruiting Texas against Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is one of the best recruiters of all time. All right, what he lacked in X's and O's, and wasn't that much that he lacked in X's and O's, but he did have some flaws X's and O's wise. He made up for in talent. And I promise you, Urban Meyer is the type of guy that had he gone to Texas, Kev, Texas would be a dynasty right off the bat with Urban Meyer because of the recruiting standpoint. Urban Meyer would dominate Texas. And I think the reason Texas gets put on that pedestal is because it's believed that, hey, if you just got the best player at every position from Texas alone, you're a national title contender. They have yet to be able to find someone, even Mac Brown, who put together talented teams, they've yet to find someone that has been able to be that stability, just to have that stability from a recruiting standpoint in the state of Texas. Tom Herman appeared to be that guy of all the love he got at Ohio State. Then he goes on to Houston, and he made something out of Houston.
From Texas.
Yeah, so he made something out of Houston. They're like, man, if he could make Houston if he could do what he did with Houston, imagine what he could do with our resources, with our money, with our brand, the Texas brand, right? So to me, I think that's really what it comes down to. I think it could be done. Texas, I think, is a sleeping giant that they have yet to find the right guy to drive that car. Urban Meyer was it. And I think it was devastating to them that they couldn't get Urban Meyer. And I don't know who the next guy is that can go and dominate the recruiting landscape in Texas. Urban Meyer was it. And as I've said earlier, Ryan Day's doing a fantastic job. He would not out-recruit Urban Meyer had Urban Meyer taken that Texas job. And I think Urban Meyer knows that. I think Urban Meyer didn't take the Texas job because he didn't want to have to pummel Ryan Day on the recruiting trail. And that's no disrespect to Ryan Day. That's the reality of it. But that to me, Kev, is that. I think it's more of what they could potentially do versus what they can. Let me ask you this. If you take the best player from Ohio, let's say they locked in recruiting. You can only recruit from your state. Ohio State's not winning national championships if you only take talent from Ohio. And there's great talent in Ohio, don't get me wrong, but there's more elsewhere. Yeah. And I think that's what it comes down to. With Texas, you wouldn't have to go outside of your state very often if you just swallowed up what's yours, and they've yet to find a coach to be able to do that. With Texas, it's a sleeping giant more so of what the expectations should be, and they're just not finding the right guy to push those buttons. That's all.
I just think that the program itself needs to look in the mirror, because after they lost the national championship game to Alabama back in 2009, that year they went 13-1 with Matt Brown. Then they went 5-7. 8-5, 9-4, 8-5. Fired Matt Brown, who won you a national championship, who brought you back from the depths of hell. And then you hired Charlie Strong, 6-7, 5-7, 5-7. Fired him. Tom Herman, 7-6, 10-4, 8-5, 7-3. Now you fired him. Now you mean to tell me that Matt Brown forgot how to coach? I don't believe Matt Brown forgot how to coach. He's doing a hell of a job of recruiting at North Carolina. Tom Herman, you telling me he forgot how to coach football? I just don't buy that these guys forget how to coach football and forget how to recruit.
But Tom Herman didn't lose it because he couldn't coach. He lost. Tom Herman just lost the top 2 Texas prospects in the last month.
Right.
That was the nail in the coffin. Kev, I think we're beyond just X's and O's. Bad coaches there are bad X's and O's coaches who make up for it with recruiting. Let me put it this way: coaches who could draw up awesome plays on the clipboard doesn't sell a program. Coaches who go out and get the best talent in the country on a year in, year out basis, that's the allure to future college football players who, hey, you come play for us, look who you'll be playing with. Not, hey, do you have a clipboard? I would love to draw you a fun offensive scheme I'd love to use you in. I don't think that sells as much in the living room as much as it does, hey, who are you going to come play with? And let me be clear. Yes, scheme matters, because how are you going to use that talent? I'm not dumb to that. But I do think that Texas is saying, hey, we have a certain, criteria or requirement here that you need to recruit. You need to recruit your state. And we got mad at Urban Meyer because he ignored the state of Ohio for the longest time. Mm-hmm. Right? There are certain guys he went after here locally that were considered just guys to just keep the Ohio people happy. Urban Meyer was accused of recruiting certain people in Ohio just to be able to put on the roster that, hey, we do recruit Ohio. He recruited certain Ohio players just to shut up the critics of not recruiting the state of Ohio, because it was important to keep those pipelines greased and oiled so that, if you have to go back down into that level, you could do it. So that matters. And you know that. I'm not telling you don't know, but I do think that that's the biggest thing with Texas is, hey, we're not really firing you because you haven't won anything, but you're not winning anything because you're not dominating on the recruiting trail the way we thought that you would coming over here. And I think that's what it comes down to, which, by the way, I thought made a ton of sense for them to go after Urban Meyer. They tried the Charlie Strongs. They tried the Tom Hermans. They've tried the coordinators that are the up-and-coming thing, and it's not working. So they went after the next, the big thing. Urban Meyer's that. Sarkisian, pretty good. I think Sarkisian will do good things there. The college football playoff landscape has changed that too, Kev, because you don't have to be one of the top 2 teams in the country. You just need to be one of the top 2 teams in your conference every year. They've been that. That Big 12 it's dominatable. It's dominatable. I don't know if that's a word.
Google that.
But it is dominatable. And I think that you don't even need a great coach. You just need a above average coach to be able to recruit high enough in Texas and around the country. The Big 12 is beatable. It's dominatable. And I think that's why I think the pressure is there. You don't have to be one of the best 2 teams in the country. You just need to be one of the 2 best teams in your conference, because as long as you're competing for conference titles, you're always going to be in the college football playoff picture. And then at that point, anything can happen.
And I also read a little rumor mill about, obviously we all know the rumors about the situation with Charlie Strong down there in Texas and everything that went on with him. And now I'm reading stuff about Tom Herman refusing to rub elbows with certain boosters and things of that nature. Like, that goes back to the thing we were talking about with college football coaches versus NFL coaches. You ain't got to do none of that. The only smoothing you got to do in the NFL.
Kiss hands and shake babies.
Nah.
You said earlier.
Yeah, all you got to do in the NFL is win games. They don't care what you do in your spare time. But in college football, they expect you to be at all these booster events and all this other stuff that you as a football coach, you could care less about. You just want to coach games, but you can't do that in college football. College football requires you to do that because in college football, these boosters pay your salary. So, that's the biggest difference between college football and the pros. I just think is very interesting. I believe all these guys will end up on their feet. I mean, they've been paid millions of dollars to coach college football for years, but I really think that Tom Herman can find himself a head coaching job and put himself right back in the mix very quickly.
What makes you? I feel like the quickest route to big jobs is the recruiter, is the coordinator role versus the head coach. I don't know why. I feel like I mean, look, the defensive coordinator for Clemson, we only heard his name like 85 million times. Venables, whatever. He's smart. I mean, for one, he's making $2.5 million a year. That's why every time a position opens up, his name gets brought up right away. But he's smart. He knows, hey, I'm making head coaching money as a coordinator, and I have no pressure. All I got to do is just take the great players that Dabo and those guys are getting, and I just got to have a perfect enough scheme to put them in. He's in the best situation possible. So sometimes those positions they allow you to be more patient. As a head coach, you got to have success right off the bat, and it's very dependent on you. It's not dependent on Venables. Venables is dependent on the talent that he has, and the talent that he has is always going to keep his name hot. So when that job opens up, the perfect one, he's going to be right there waiting, which I still think is Clemson. I still think that the dominoes that'll fall is when Nick Saban never does hang it up. You could see Dabo go to Alabama and Venables just take over at Clemson. Who knows? That's way down the road, but an interesting one. We'll see at that. So, all right. Coming up around the corner, we'll get into some NFL coaching dominoes that could impact the Buckeyes. Urban Meyer's name is being brought up a ton in the NFL. In fact, now reports are coming out. This is why I think he could be heading to the NFL. Is last year the reports were NFL teams interested in Urban Meyer. That's not a headline. That's a stupid headline. They should be interested in Urban Meyer. What's an interesting headline is if Urban Meyer's interested in the NFL. That's a headline. I've always said, if there's a hot girl out there and you're interested in her, that's not breaking news. You should be. She's hot. Now, she's interested in you. That's a total different ball. It's like, who, me? Really? That's a completely different ball game, right? That's where we're at with Urban Meyer. He's the hot piece that the NFL's looking at. But now, I'm glad you edited yourself. And now that to me is not a headline. They should be interested in Urban Meyer. But if he's interested in them, completely different ball game. And it seems like it's a completely different ball game. It's one thing though to talk about Urban Meyer in the NFL, but one thing that I've predicted for a while, even though I didn't expect it to be this soon, is what about Ryan Day in the NFL? All of a sudden, that's being talked about as well. Now, Ryan Day is going to put that to bed quickly, and I do see it unlikely, but it's not that unlikely. I'll talk about that coming up around the corner. Let me ask you a question, Kev. If the Buckeyes win a national championship a week from tonight, will it be the most difficult title that they've ever won? Just think about it. Callers think about it. We'll be back in a moment.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy, a high near 40. Tonight's going to be cloudy with a chance of snow, a low around 30. And tomorrow will be cloudy with snow, a high near 40. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
You're ready to get back into yoga, so you order the essentials. A non-slip mat, yoga blocks to keep balance, and an exercise ball. And you use your Bank of America Cash Rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put towards your most essential yoga gear. Noise-canceling headphones.
Welcome. Take a deep breath. Breathe.
Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2020 Bank of America Corporation.
Carmen's startup found an angel investor, but now they're asking for a miracle from her development team.
Hello, this is Carmen. That's exciting news. I guess we could launch early.
It's time to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR 2019. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, Joey Beckett here at Buckeye Ford in Sydney, home of the Works package. We'll change the oil and filter, rotate the tires, check the brakes, test the battery, and check all the fluids and filters. Still starting at just $39.95. And ask us about our double take tire specials. Goodyear, Michelin, BF Goodrich, Kelly, and other quality tires. Buckeye Ford in Sydney, exit 92 off of I-75. We'll see you soon.
Hi, it's Steve Mann. Have you heard the commercials for the Mark Patrick Stop Smoking seminars? And they said only $49.99 and it could work for you. So I thought, that's not even a week's worth of smoking. So I went. And guess what? It did work for me. You know, my friends and family are still amazed. I quit smoking. I didn't have cravings, anxiety, or weight gain. Listen, I don't know how it works, but I know it works because I'm living proof and it's 100% guaranteed. So what do you got to lose? I'll tell you what you got to lose. A very bad habit.
Stop smoking now without cravings, irritability, weight gain, or your money back. Only $49.99 guaranteed. Hypnosis designed to work without anxiety, irritability, or weight gain. Join Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar and lose the weight, stop smoking, or end anxiety for only $49.99 guaranteed or your money back. Because of coronavirus, seminars are now online live Thursday, January 7th or Saturday, January 9th for Dayton. Area details at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
You have empty office space to fill. You know what you need, and you know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places that what you need and what you'd like, that might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week there's something new. If you need office furniture, Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half price and below manufacturer's suggested prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really. Desks from $50 to $5,000. File cabinets, $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Outlet. With 87,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. 2 locations. One at 23 McOil Street, Dayton. The other, Uniques Unlimited on South Dixie. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Saturday, 10 to 4.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Give me a call for an all-cash offer at 614-362-2000, 614-362-2000.
If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Get quality candidates delivered from Indeed's resume database immediately when you upgrade your job post. Learn more at Indeed.com/credit.
NFL fans, the season is finally here. Get your picks submitted at wingam.com. Click on contest and enter the Pro Football Challenge. Weekly winners will win $20 in Frickers Fun Bucks. Get to wingam.com and get your NFL picks submitted now. Touchdown! Incredible! Good luck. Whether you're at home, at work, or in your car, tune in to ESPN 1410 Wing AM or stream us live at wingam.com.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here. Kev, I threw out the question. If Ohio State goes on to win this national championship a week from tonight against Alabama, this will be, in my opinion, the most difficult national championship that the Buckeyes have won in the history of their program. I think that, you could look back at 2014 and say, yeah, well, they had a third-string quarterback that, came in and they had to win a national championship with a third-string quarterback. That's unheard of. And I've always thought that narrative in the NFL would be a bigger deal to me than in college football, just because of how stacked these rosters are at the college level. Like, let's be honest, the second and third-string quarterbacks for programs like Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State, it's not a matter of talent. It's usually a matter of where you are at in the totem pole of, your opportunity. We've seen that with programs all across the country. I mean, you look at Alabama, you had Jalen Hurts in the national championship game get replaced by Tua Tagovailoa, a freshman, at halftime, and then they have a national championship game. And that narrative wasn't, oh my gosh, a backup quarterback came in to win a national championship. Now, that was the narrative, but it's not the narrative because Tua is not a backup type talent. Like, when you think backup, you think of a guy that has less talent than the guy who was originally starting, right? That's not the case in college football, at least more times than not for the elite programs. Kelly Bryant was the starter for Clemson a few years ago. He started the first couple of games of Trevor Lawrence's freshman season. Trevor Lawrence takes over midseason. The narrative wasn't Trevor Lawrence, backup quarterback, comes in midseason to lead Clemson to a national title. It was freshman phenom Trevor Lawrence wins national title. So to me, it's not watering down what the Buckeyes accomplished in 2014. And I know that the narrative of, man, a third string quarterback coming in to win a national championship, that's right. That's what happened, but it's not what happened. Like Cardale Jones had an elite level arm for the college game, right? Like you could throw Cardale Jones on any roster, and that elite arm was going to be taken advantage of with elite, potential NFL talent around him, whether it was at Clemson, Alabama, and so on and so on. So my point is I don't view that as the most difficult national championship ever. I mean, Ohio State had NFL talent all over the place, offense, defense. They were just as talented as Alabama and everyone else that they went up against. Obviously, that's why they won a national title. Now, this year, to me, is the most difficult national championship possibility for Ohio State because their biggest win of the season at this point, Kev, it's not Indiana. It's not Northwestern. It wasn't even Clemson this past week. The victory that they had this year, that was the biggest victory of all time in the history of the program, that if they don't get this victory, they don't even get this chance. If they don't get this W, they don't even get a chance to beat Clemson. If they don't get this W, they don't even have a chance to beat Alabama in the national championship game. The victory that was the biggest victory of the season was not Clemson, Kev. It was the victory that Ohio State had over its own conference, the Big Ten. They had to battle their own conference just to have a season. The We Want to Play. The We Want to Play movement. And Chris Schulp, I'll get to this in a moment. He chimes in and says the 2002 national championship was the toughest, and I'll get to that in a moment. But there wasn't even going to be a season. The hashtag We Want to Play movement, that started with Justin Fields. That started with Ryan Day being very outspoken. Nebraska had to come to the table. Like there was a lot of things, a lot of dominoes had to fall for there to even be a season. And then the Big Ten compromises, fine, we'll do a season, but we're only going to do 8 games, and you only have 8 weeks to play 8 games, and there's no wiggle room for makeup games at the end. So basically, Ohio State's margin for error was zero. You had no margin for error. It was every time the Buckeyes had a game canceled, we felt that their national title hopes were thrown out the window, that their college football playoff hopes were thrown out the window. They didn't play Maryland. They didn't play Illinois. They didn't play that team up north. All right. They have 22 players out for the Big Ten championship game. I mean, literally, they are running uphill. This is a battle uphill. So that was such a great game this past Friday night. And when you think about what they had to do to even get to that point, it was unbelievable. Now, everyone's being impacted by COVID in some way or another, but it doesn't take away the fact that that is one of the barriers in the way of Ohio State winning a national title in 2020, 2021. So you would talk about all of that. And then you finally clinch your Big Ten championship. You finally clinch your spot in the playoff. You have to play Trevor Lawrence, the best quarterback in college football in Trevor Lawrence, arguably the second best coach in college football in Dabo Swinney, and the number 2 team in all of college football in the Clemson Tigers. That's what you get the first round. You beat them. What do you get now? Well, now you get a team that's filled with Heisman finalists. You get the best coach, not just in college football today, but the best, potentially the best coach in all of college football history, and Nick Saban. And you have the number 1 team in Alabama. If Ryan Day somehow, some way goes on to get this Buckeye team to beat Alabama in the national championship game a week from tonight, this would be the most impressive national championship in the history of the program. Everything they had to overcome, their own conference. I can't think of any team that has ever won a national championship that had to fight their own conference, who was a bigger foe than anyone that they've had on the schedule. The Big Ten was a tougher opponent than Alabama and Clemson combined, because if it wasn't for beating them, they don't have a chance to play these teams. They had so much to overcome, and yet here they are, 1 game away from a national championship. To me, and by the way, on any given day between now and Monday, Kev, Justin Fields can test positive for the virus. He can handle a helmet 100 miles an hour to the rib. He can handle all of that. You're not gonna beat COVID. What I mean by that sounds bad. What I mean by that is you're not gonna test positive. You're out. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There are so many roadblocks keeping Ohio State from potentially winning a national championship that if they beat Alabama a week from tonight, it will be the most impressive championship in the history of the program. Kev, what say you?
I agree. I always thought that whoever won the national championship this year was going to be the most difficult challenge, because not only you're facing an opponent on the field, but obviously COVID as well. And so many delays, so many people testing positive, and, obviously send those people well wishes who go out there for our entertainment to still play football and everything like that. But that opponent, but you're right. The Big Ten was their own worst enemy. The conference that they are aligned with basically try to stop college football. Now, I personally may have thought the Big Ten was right or whatever, but that still doesn't stop the fact that the student athletes wanted to play, the coaches wanted to play, and their parents wanted them to play. And from the looks of it, every team wanted to play outside of like maybe who was it, Rutgers. But when, I know Rutgers is Rutgers, but if you look at Rutgers, you got to give them a tip of the cap for the way they played the season for a team that basically we just read off like, they're nobody, but they gave a solid effort. So I commend everybody this season who basically strapped on a helmet and put on a clipboard and everything like that and played a football season. So yeah, I agree with you. This is going to be the most difficult championship that Ohio State has ever won if they can bring it home on Monday night.
What do you say to Chris? Show up on Facebook. Get me live on Facebook. Head to Facebook, search The Justin Kinner Show. You can also find us on YouTube. Subscribe to the ESPN Dayton YouTube channel. Chris on Facebook says, the 2002 national championship was the toughest. He goes on to say that the 2001 Miami team had more talent than this year's Alabama team. Keep in mind, an article that came out this past summer, they ranked all the national champions from the past 2 decades or from 2000 to now. The 2002 Ohio State national championship team was ranked as the worst national champion in the last 20 years. And
how about that Auburn team with Cam? I would probably put them as the worst.
I think because they have Cam, that's probably why I don't even know where they fell on that. But Cam, the sexiest
three players on that team played in NFL.
So, and I can't remember how many of that 2002 Buckeye roster. It was more than 3.
It was I forget the number, but I think it was somewhere between 25 and 30.
So with that being said, at the time, I don't think we realized what we were watching with. I say that all the time. Even that 2014 team, I don't think we truly appreciated what we were watching until the very end when you saw the talent that they had in the Big Ten title game against Wisconsin, Alabama, Oregon, hoisting the trophy. We didn't appreciate it until they came back, and then the next year they never played to its full potential. But I will say this, if Ohio State beats Alabama, to me, in my opinion, this is the most difficult national championship the Buckeyes have ever won, just because of the circumstances that have never happened before and will never be replicated again, knock on wood. Right. We're hoping that a lot of this is, hopefully, in control by the time we get to the 2021 college football season. Chris, I'm with you, though, because I wrote down some of the championships for Ohio State. 2002 was on my list as one of the most difficult ones just because of the opponent of which they played, the roster that Ohio State had, who at the time I don't think we appreciated until after the fact with all the NFL talent that it ultimately had. But that's ultimately why I didn't even put them in the final conversation because of that. Ohio State at the time, we didn't appreciate what they had, but big picture, there was a lot of NFL talent on that 2002 national championship team. So, Chris, that's why I just can't put them there. And Doug Toby says, well, hey, Ohio State was a 13-point underdog back in 2002. Does that matter?
But that's just regular stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's regular football. This is a pandemic. Like this is world changing. This is something that's going to be in the history books, not only for sports, but life in general. They're not going to be talking about Ohio State's championship over Miami in 2002 in world history. They're only going to talk about that in sports books. That's why this one, if we can pull it off, is going to be so epic. You talk about that 2002 game. The biggest thing about that 2002 game is Miami had juniors and seniors. We had juniors and sophomores. So by the time that junior and sophomore year of class eventually got to the NFL, they had just as many guys in the NFL off that team that played in that game as Miami. So they were allowed to develop and mature and then like, oh man, those guys really were that good after the fact. But going into it, everybody looked at, the overtime victory at Cincinnati where Will Allen had the interception, Will Allen's interception over Michigan, these slobber knocker games, a slobber knocker game with Illinois, with us winning in overtime and everything like that. Mike Doss running off the field with the number one finger after making a 4th down stop and all those type of things, all that imagery that we had from that season. But going up against that juggernaut in Miami, who was blowing teams out by 40 on the field. Yes, that was the toughest matchup. But not only are we playing a tough opponent on the field, we're playing a tough opponent in life in general in COVID-19. So there's no question that this isn't like the NBA where they're inside a bubble, where they're safe. And we're being tested all the time, every single day. We're in a bubble. Nobody's coming in. Nobody's coming out. They won't have to deal with COVID. If you were in a situation like that, I would be like, yeah, it's difficult because they're not seeing their families, everything like that. But this isn't like the NBA had a perfect setup to execute their playoff. They're risking it by getting on an airplane, getting on a bus, going to class, going to Wendy's, going to McDonald's, going to study hall, just living life, going to pump gas, for goodness sake. They're at risk of catching COVID-19. And as we heard about Chris Olave, Thursday practice, gets tapped on the shoulder. You're out the Big Ten championship game. You got COVID. Yep. Just like that, out of nowhere. So it's difficult not only for Ohio State, but Alabama, our opponent in the national championship game. Let's not get it twisted. I want us to be at 100%, obviously, but I want Alabama at 100% too. I want to see a great game. Obviously, I want Ohio State to win, but my backup for everything in life is I want to be entertained. Like if we don't win, hopefully it's a good game. I want them at 100% because, I'm not like the biggest Facebook and Instagram guy out there and Twitter and going back and forth with people. But I know the talk of the town will be if one of the Alabama players comes down with COVID and is unable to play.
Yeah, and again, that's what we talked about earlier with the the news coming out of some of the Waddle from Alabama potentially might not play this coming up week. That's going to be another talking point if that is the case. But no, it's an interesting conversation to have and a fun one at that. The bottom line is Ohio State still needs to get the job done. They need to beat Alabama. And I think the thing is, too, this isn't that was a tough title to win because Alabama's that good. I think that at the time, we thought that the talent gap between Miami and Ohio State in 2002, we thought it was just night and day different. I didn't feel that the talent gap between Ohio State and Alabama was night and day different in 2014 in the semis. Definitely not against Oregon, and I don't feel that now. I didn't think that the talent gap was big between Clemson and Ohio State. I don't think there is one. I think that if there are three teams that the gap does not exist, it's Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson. Now, on a normal year, and this is, not normal, but a normal year for them when healthy, there isn't a huge gap between Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. Like they're the top three recruiting schools in the country on a year in, year out basis more times than not. So to me, I think that's what, but I think that's what Chris's point is because the talent gap, at least what we thought back in 2002. Yeah. But for me, because of the circumstances, we will never see a season like this again, as we talked about. And I think that because of those factors that every program is facing, right? Alabama faced COVID this year. Right. Nick Saban missed a game. Dabo missed a game. We didn't see Trevor Lawrence for 5 weeks for Clemson. Every team is being impacted by this in one way or another. But again, that doesn't take away from the fact that Ohio State only played 6 games. And why did they only play 6 games? Was that a decision for Ohio State? No, that was a decision made by their conference, which is why I said earlier, Clemson was not the biggest win of the season. Beating Alabama early, a week from tonight, if that happens, that will not be the biggest win of the season. The biggest win of the season for Ohio State was the victory they had over their own conference. When the pressure they put on the conference at one point, who agreed not to play, all of a sudden reverse that decision. That was the biggest win of all, because of what you said a while back, the pressure's on to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. The whole reason there was a Big Ten season was for this right here. Yes. For Ohio State to potentially win a national championship. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here. We'll dive back into more of that with Paul Keels coming up around the corner. Half hour from now, a little over half hour, 5:15, we'll hear from the voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll step away for a few minutes. On the other side of the break, Urban Meyer's name being circulated around the NFL. Could he be the next head coach of the Jaguars? Or could Ryan Day be the next head coach of the Jaguars? I'll talk about that and explain my theory next. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
What's in store this week at Staples?
A great start to the new year.
Give your business a head start on the year with everything you need to be organized and productive.
Like storage solutions, the latest tech, and office essentials like paper and ink, all at amazing prices.
And now at Staples, earn 40% back in rewards when you buy any 2 ink or toner cartridges. Shop in-store or pick up curbside.
Start the year right and save at Staples. Ends 1/9/21, limit 4, curbside available in most stores. Visit staples.com/40 and rewards for details.
I'm so sick.
Ooh, honey.
Seriously? I'm sick.
Oh, honey, it's time for DayQuil Severe Honey. It's maximum strength cold and flu medicine with soothing honeylicious taste.
I love you, honey.
And I love you.
I meant the DayQuil. New DayQuil Severe Honey. The soothing, honeylicious daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, power through your day medicine. Use as directed.
I'm Erin Russo, and I've had 15 years of ICU experience.
My name is Lisa Burrich. I've been an ER nurse for 7 years.
My name is Jasmine Shavers, and I've been working in ICU for 2 years now.
I think the scariest part of COVID is that it's unpredictable. It is life-threatening. It is serious.
Some patients tell us they didn't think the virus was real, and then they need a ventilator to survive.
Patients arrive to the ER in respiratory distress, and they're placed on a ventilator for weeks to sometimes a month.
You can't imagine the level of fear. They are alone. They're with no one familiar. And the hardest part is when they ask us to hold their hand because they don't want to die alone. I beg the public to take this virus more seriously.
Nothing is more important than your life. People really need to be responsible, wear a mask, socially distance.
To beat this virus, we need your help. Please.
A message from the Ohio Department of Health.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
He's a former Buckeyes great and now a college football Hall of Famer. And don't forget about his 13 years of NFL experience playing for the Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, and the New England Patriots. He's Dayton's own Keith Byers. Hang out with him every Monday at noon on the Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. All sports, all the time. This is 1410 ESPN Radio.
The Cleveland Browns. It took 17 weeks, literally an entire 7. It took 17 weeks for the Cleveland Browns to end an 18-year drought. The Cleveland Browns back in the playoffs for the first time since 2002 after they were able to defeat the Ben Roethlisberger-less Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. And we'll talk about what that means for the Browns moving forward as they enter the playoffs for the first time in almost 2 decades. And they await that same Pittsburgh Steelers team, well, not necessarily the same opponent, but a much different roster. And we're going to talk about that coming up here around the corner. I do want to talk about this just to kind of stick to our college football theme for today. We're definitely going to talk the Browns in the playoffs coming up here just around the corner. But I am interested in this dilemma here. We talked about some of the coaching dominoes that could potentially fall earlier in the show. Tom Herman being let go from Texas, Sarkisian leaving Alabama as their coordinator to take over there. And then, we talked about Elliott, the offensive coordinator at Clemson, reports that he could potentially take the coordinator job at Alabama. And I said, well, Tom Herman, look for Tom Herman potentially if he doesn't go after another head coaching gig. He could potentially be the next offensive coordinator at one of these big programs moving forward. And I think he would make a difference, by the way. Tom Herman is a hell of a coordinator. A lot of these guys are. We see it all the time. We see it in the NFL. Hugh Jackson is a joke of a head coach, but he was not a joke of an offensive coordinator. In fact, the one reason he was one of the most sought after offensive head coaches in football at the time was because of what he did at the coordinator position. We see it in the NFL all the time. We see it in college all the time. But one name that's being floated around is filling one of the top vacancies in the NFL right now. And it's weird saying the Jaguars are one of the top vacancies in football, but they are a team that has $70 million in cap space. They have the number 1 overall pick, and they have an owner who is all in on spending money and rebuilding this team to put a winner out on the field. And I'm talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Urban Meyer's name has been circulating as a name to go to the NFL, to take an NFL coaching job, as I joked about earlier. The news and headlines should not be that the NFL is interested in Urban Meyer. That's a duh. They should be interested in Urban Meyer. But don't waste my time with articles about the NFL being interested in Urban Meyer. Come to me when Urban Meyer is interested in the NFL. And that seems to be, there's more momentum now this year time around than what there has ever been when it comes to this conversation in the past. The Jacksonville Jaguars make a ton of sense. They are going hard after Urban Meyer. They could pay him any money he wants. They have the cap space to do it. They have the ownership to do it. They have the number 1 overall pick. They're one of the most intriguing vacancies in all of the NFL right now. One report that I read from Yahoo Sports over the weekend was that, that if the Jacksonville Jaguars do not land Urban Meyer, that the next hot target that they would go after would be Ryan Day. Again, just like I said earlier, don't come at me with, they're interested in Ryan Day. They should be interested in Ryan Day. Teams should be interested in Lincoln Riley. Teams should be interested in Dabo Swinney. Come at me when there is intrigue on behalf of the opposite party. If Ryan Day is interested in the NFL, now I'll listen. But here's why it's not that unlikely, or here's why it's not that unlikely that this is such a crazy scenario here. If I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars and I'm watching Ryan Day have all this success with Justin Fields, who is arguably the second best quarterback in this draft class coming up, and depending on what he does against Alabama, he could become 1A and 1B with Trevor Lawrence heading into this year's draft. If I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars, yes, I go hard after Urban Meyer. It's going to be a weird dilemma for Urban Meyer, by the way, if he has that number 1 draft pick and Buckeye fans are wanting him to take Justin Fields and he ultimately takes Trevor Lawrence. But here's the deal. The Jaguars are sold on Trevor Lawrence. Everyone and their mom knows they're taking Trevor Lawrence, or do they? If they strike out on Urban Meyer and I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars, I give Ryan Day a call. I say, name your price, and we'll draft Justin Fields. If you are Ryan Day and they name the price, you're not even, I think he's like the 4th highest paid coach in the Big Ten right now, if I'm not mistaken, or 3rd or something like that. You're not even one of the top paid coaches in all of college football. So your pay is going to go up dramatically, which I expected to go up dramatically at Ohio State following this season regardless, but that's a conversation for later. But this is a hell of a scenario. I've always said I believe Ryan Day at some point will go to the NFL. He was always pursuing the NFL even before he came to Ohio State. That's what, so he has interest there. And if he has a chance to be a head coach and you get to take your quarterback with you, imagine if the Jaguars say, hey, we'll pay you a lot. You have the number 1 overall pick. You have $70 million in cap space. We'll let you pass on Trevor Lawrence. We'll let you have Justin Fields. That's not that crazy of a scenario that is developing. The seeds have been planted. Urban Meyer is their main target. He shuts it down. They're going to go right on to Ryan Day. And I have no doubt that the Jaguars would use that as leverage, saying, hey, we'll pay you what you want. Everyone thinks we're taking Trevor Lawrence, but how would you like to continue your run with Justin Fields, this time being a part of the growing process with him in the NFL? How crazy am I for thinking that?
That's not too crazy, especially when you're dealing with a situation like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl not too long ago when they had a stacked defense and a stacked running game. And now they're got the first pick in the NFL draft. They got an owner there that's looking to spend big money. Obviously, we're hearing big numbers with Urban Meyer already out there, upwards to $12 million allegedly. So they got tons of money to spend. They're looking to make a splash. So I wouldn't put anything against Jacksonville for trying to make a splash and trying to make a hire or trying to get their franchise out the dumpster. You can't. You got to do something.
And look, and I think it makes, and I don't know, if you're Ryan Day, this is the class to go out on, especially if you win a national championship. Someone, and I brought this up earlier today, someone said, if he wins a title, there's no way he's not coming back. Now is the time to go back.
Yeah, this ain't the NBA. You don't run it back with the same squad.
You know why I think this is the time to go out if you're Ryan Day? And again, I still think it's a long shot, but kind of in the back of my head, it still makes sense. You win a national championship with Justin Fields. You go to the NFL. The Jaguars say, hey, we'll hire you, Ryan Day, but to get you, we'll pay you, and you get to pick Justin Fields with the number 1 overall pick. And again, they have to win the national title. And to do that, Justin Fields has to have a big game. I don't see that not happening. So with that being said, you look at that situation, Ryan Day's like, you know what? My job is now safe at the college ranks. I can come back and have any job I want. If I go to the NFL and fail, like Nick Saban did, Nick Saban came back to Alabama. Okay, he won a national title at LSU, went to the NFL, failed, came back, and is a part of this dynasty with Alabama. That could be Ryan Day, Kev. Ryan Day can go to the NFL, and for one, he could succeed and never come back to college. Okay, great. Or he can go to the NFL, fail, and come back to the college football landscape and say, hey, the last time I was a head coach, I was a national champion. Hire me. He could pick any job he wants. Again, it's a long shot. It's a stretch, but I don't think it's that crazy to consider that situation planning out, because Justin Fields opened the eyes of everybody this past week. The biggest winner of all of college football this past Friday night, yes, was the Buckeyes technically, but it was ultimately Justin Fields who, in his resurrection of his play to get the Buckeyes to the national title game, obviously resurrected his draft status. And that was taking a hit for a while. And he's right up there back in the conversation with Trevor Lawrence now. He repeats that similar type of performance against Alabama, Kev, with the title. It's not that crazy to think that the Jaguars can take him number 1 overall and use that as leverage to get Ryan Day to come take over, if Urban Meyer is not already the guy.
You know, the Urban Meyer thing, I don't think he's going to take the job simply, and it's not because like, oh man, he's a Buckeye, he'll never take another job. I just don't think, for one, is Urban Meyer built for the NFL? Is he built for that? I mean, we know the medical history on Urban Meyer and everything like that, but is he built for that? I think Urban Meyer's best trait isn't necessarily, X and his O's. I think his best trait is talent evaluation. So why wouldn't he be in a front office role? Like, that's what I always picture Urban Meyer's, third career as, the first phase coaching football, and then, a little dabbling in TV, which he's doing now. And then that third phase, being a front office guy, a talent evaluator. That's where I see Urban Meyer having the biggest impact on a franchise.
I think Urban, though, would have a lot of power. That's why Jacksonville is intriguing. He would get a lot of that power. He would get a lot of that but sometimes that sounds great at the beginning, but sometimes when you have the power to pick your roster at times, that could be what debilitates you. That could be what kills you, because every decision you make now the magnifying glass is on you even more. It's one thing to just it's hard to question Urban's coaching ability, but when it comes time to roster construction, that's where Bill O'Brien got killed. Bill O'Brien was not a bad coach. He was a good coach for the Texans. He was a horrible GM. That's what ultimately killed his run with the Texans. That's where you kind of get concerned, Urban Meyer going over there. But a great leader. He has the respect of the locker room. He's going to have the attention to those guys. Those guys will play hard for him. It's not like the 12-year-old that the Bengals decided to extend today. All right, anyways, but that's besides the point. Urban Meyer, I think, I think he'd be a good fit. I think he'd be a great fit, Kev, for a rebuilding team. You can't put Urban on a team with veterans already who are established. I think it's great that he's going to if Urban Meyer gets that Jacksonville job, that he would go in with a bunch of young players, new players, get a fresh draft, get Trevor Lawrence or get Justin Fields, $70 million in cap space. He can go out and get the guys that are going to play to his strengths, as opposed to taking over a crappy situation with the Jets, who don't even know what they're doing with their quarterback, or if they trade that pick away, you still don't know what you have. I saw someone, Brandon on Facebook, by the way, I want to bring him into this. He says Justin Fields and Eric Bieniemy in New York, revolutionary turnaround. Potentially, but there are more holes than just quarterback with the Jets. You can argue that the quarterback may not be the issue with the Jets. It's everything else. So there's a lot of holes for these other teams. Jacksonville, it's one big hole, but you get to start from scratch. Right. I think that's a better situation than taking over teams who have bad contracts, bad cap space limitations.
Right.
Jacksonville's the sexiest one.
That's what the Houston Texans are doing.
Garbage.
They got a great quarterback, but they got a lot of bad contracts on their hands. So, I don't see Eric Bieniemy touching that job now. As great as Deshaun Watson is, like, hey, man, they couldn't win with you, and you threw for the most passing yards in the league, second highest QBR. What am I going to do, man? I can't get you much better than what you already are if I can't put talent around you. But as for Coach Meyer, we should have asked Keith Byers this. How do NFL guys look at college coaches coming to their league? Because veterans look at it totally different, like you were just talking about, how, like, all right, it's a bunch of young guys, there's rookies and second-year guys. They were just in college, so, they have that respect factor for Urban Meyer or a college coach in that general. But, a veteran locker room, a locker room where guys have been in the league, 5-6 years, how would they react to a college coach coming in, telling them what to do? I was always curious about situations like that.
But I think Urban knows how to communicate with players in regards to, I think any coach who looks at coaching as telling guys what to do, that's where you fail. Mm-hmm. I think Urban knows how to unify a team. Like, Urban has never been criticized of not being able to unify a team. I mean, when he leaves the team, a lot of times there's a lot of loose ends that, there wasn't a lot of attention to detail in the back end for a guy that praises, that is praised for his attention to detail. A lot of times it's the lack of attention to detail for certain aspects of the game that causes so much turmoil when he leaves things. I don't think it's fair to consider how he left programs like Texas or like Florida and Ohio State, Kev, and to put that into consideration with the NFL. It's a completely different ballgame, completely different type of responsibilities. You're still responsible for everything your team does to a degree, but at the same time, if what happened with Zach Smith at Ohio State, if that happens to the NFL, you fire Zach Smith and you move on to the next thing. We're not having this month-long investigation and suspension and everything else, unless he truly did know something going on, but that's a conversation for later. But you know what I mean? Like, I think it would be different. No recruiting. There's just, to me, and the other thing about Urban that Jacksonville makes sense, you're not being brought in to win a Super Bowl right now. You're not being brought in to win a Super Bowl right now.
That's a good point.
You can gradually go into it. Texas, I'm not saying it's national championship or bust the first time you take over, but you are coaching and recruiting and working 365 days a year. You're not doing that in the NFL. And I think that's why it makes a lot of sense for Urban Meyer if he chooses to go that route. But if he doesn't, Ryan Day, I'm anticipating them to make a huge play at him. And I don't think it's that crazy. It would be crazy of them not to use that leverage. Hey, we have the number 1 overall pick. Yes, we know Trevor Lawrence probably the better quarterback, but not by much. I don't think that we're talking, a mile gap between the two talent-wise. And if Justin Fields balls out against Alabama a week from tonight, I think that it's solidified as 1A and 1B. And if Jacksonville uses Justin Fields as leverage to get Ryan Day saying, hey, we'll draft Justin Fields with our number 1 overall pick if you come coach our Jaguars team and be a part of the rebuild. I think that would be exciting because, again, if Ryan Day fails at the NFL, the lasting memory in the college level will be him hoisting a national championship, not only beating Alabama, but beating Clemson in the process. He would have any job he wants. It would be just like Nick Saban, one with LSU. All right. Much long after that, goes to the NFL, doesn't work out, comes back, takes Alabama job. Ryan Day would be in that same boat. Pete Carroll is in that same boat if he ever decides to go back and coach again in college football.
Oh, man, you're a wild dude, man.
I try. All right, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Hour 2 officially in the books. We got a big hour 3 coming your way. Let's talk about Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are back in the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. And, well, apparently, beating the Steelers, you should beat the Steelers. They have no talent. So what we learned is that when you beat the Steelers, it's no big deal because they weren't playing their best players. But when the Browns lose without their best players, they're still expected to win. But the Steelers weren't. The hypocrisy is just running wild. But you know what? I'm not going to let it get to me because the Browns are back in the playoffs. And they fell 1 win short of my prediction, Kev. 1 win short. It's because of the damn Jets. Unbelievable. We'll be back in a moment, folks. More of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Let's talk about the Browns in the playoffs next. Playoffs?
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
New year, new budgets. Every small business has unique needs. And when you partner with a Dell Technologies advisor, you get real-time tailored advice. They'll even give you a free consultation on your servers and storage devices to develop a custom solution to help improve your company's productivity. Plus, get special financing with Dell Business Credit and big savings on business computers with Intel Core processors. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Today on Hey Culligan, the best things in life are free. Water tests. Let's go to Candace.
Hey Culligan, how do I learn more about my water?
Candace, let me just test the waters here.
Okay.
Literally test your water.
Oh.
For free.
Free?
Free, Candace. In-home water tests for free. So you know more about your water and how to make it better with Culligan water. And Candace,
yeah?
We're already on the way.
Oh, good.
Let us help you out with a free in-home water test with the local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
The spread of COVID-19 is still unchecked across the nation, and you need to keep your family safe. Make a new habit and check your temperatures twice a day, once before dinner and before leaving home in the morning. You can't afford to take chances, so use the Exergen Temporal Scanner. Its accuracy is backed by more than 80 clinical studies, and it takes an accurate reading in seconds. It's the only home thermometer used and recommended by hospitals, doctors, and nurses. Quick and easy to use. You can count on Exergen to keep your family safe 24 hours a day.
Getting a live Christmas tree to plant after the holidays? Well, here are some tips. In the house, keep it away from heat sources that could wake it up out of dormancy. You don't want that. Dig your hole now before the ground freezes. Or if you plan to wait till spring, you need to protect roots from extreme cold with mulch or straw. And move it from the warm house to an unheated area like a garage temporarily to make the transition outside more gentle. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from the Ohio chapter of the International Society of Arboriculture at treesforohio.org. That's trees, the number 4, ohio.org.
Cordell Transportation is now hiring for brand new home daily dedicated lanes. Earn up to $1,620 per week. A $2,000 sign-on bonus, medical, dental, vision, company paid life insurance. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com.
My name is Cade Courtley, and this is my new show, Can You Survive This Podcast? I'll be drawing on my years as a former Navy SEAL platoon commander, sniper, and CIA contractor. The show is designed to teach you techniques that will increase your chances of survival if you happen to find yourself or your family in any life-threatening disaster scenario imaginable. Subscribe and listen for free on Spotify. Can You Survive This Podcast?
If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Get quality candidates delivered from Indeed's resume database immediately when you upgrade your job post. Learn more at Indeed.com/credit.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kinner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. College football playoffs, Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, and more. Catch the Keith Byers Show Mondays at noon on 1410 ESPN Radio. WING 1410 Dayton. Dayton's ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. We'll step away from college football talk for just a little bit. Coming up here in 15 minutes, 5:15, the voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Paul Keels, will call into the show. And, of course, we'll dive into everything that he got to call and say throughout the 2020 season, a season unlike any other, and a season that is not done yet, especially for your Buckeyes as they are preparing right now for Alabama. National championship game a week from tonight, which you can catch right here on Dayton's home of the Buckeyes, 1410 Wing AM, 6:30 the pregame, 8 o'clock the kickoff, and roughly about midnight, Buckeyes will be anointed national champions.
It's going to be a long weekend, obviously, with the Browns, the Steelers game being a Sunday night game. Going to be up until midnight.
My two teams going to get wins on back-to-back nights.
And then midnight with the national championship game on that Monday. So get your coffee out.
All right, so Sunday night football. Ohio State, sorry, say wait. A lot of Ohio State talks today. Sunday night football, the Cleveland Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, round 3. The Cleveland Browns narrowly escape the Pittsburgh Steelers at home yesterday, 24-22. And look, the Browns are like a 10-point favorite. Are we being told we have dead air? Are we on the air right now?
We should be.
We should be. Will you hit that program too to make sure that we are on the air? Yeah, we're on the air. We're on the air. Well, I don't know what you're talking about, Robert. Robert, I appreciate you letting us know that, so let me know. But anyway,
don't scare us like that.
Unless he's joking. And I overreacted to the joke. A good one, Robert Miller. Okay. Steelers were a 10-point underdog this past weekend. No Ben Roethlisberger, no Cameron Hayward, no all their big dogs were out. Okay. Regardless, I don't care about that. And we'll talk about the Eagles situation coming up here in a moment. But the Browns, all they needed to get was a W. Any way, any shape, any form, it does not matter how they got it. They just needed to get it, and they officially got it done yesterday. And look, Cleveland is, Pittsburgh's a tough opponent regardless. Look, it doesn't matter. There's something about the aura of the Steelers that just always seems to get in the way of the Bengals and the Browns. The one thing the Pittsburgh Steelers did just accomplish, though, in a calendar month, actually I shouldn't say calendar month, but within 4 weeks of one another, the Pittsburgh Steelers have to take into the playoffs a loss to the Bengals and a loss to the Browns. Oh, how 2020-ish to start the 2021 calendar year, right? But interestingly enough, the Cleveland Browns, it didn't matter how they got it done. Somehow they made Mason Rudolph, and I hate Mason Rudolph. He has a punch-me face. If there's any player in the league that I hate more than him, it's nobody. He is my most disliked player in the NFL. I can't stand him at all. I just don't like him. So with that being said,
backup quarterback's your most disliked player in the league?
Just look at him. His face. Jeez. He has a punch me face. It's
He's on my team, and I don't like him, but not that much. I don't think about it like that. But go ahead.
I think if anything, Myles Garrett's trying to help. If anything, trying to rearrange that noggin of his. Maybe whatever. Coming from the most good-looking person in the world, me. But with that being said, though, so round 3 coming up, Browns and Steelers, a week from last night, I should say, a wild card round. The Browns at Pittsburgh. Now, limited fans. And by the way, no fans in Pittsburgh, right? Is there limited fans in Pittsburgh? No fans. Either way, it's not going to be your typical home field, advantage for the Steelers outside of just playing on your home field and having that advantage. I guess just minus not so much the big crowd. But this is an interesting matchup. I know it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I know the Browns narrowly beat the Steelers without all of their big dogs in the game last night or yesterday afternoon. But keep in mind, I do find it interesting. Like, Pittsburgh has not played a solid game of football since November 22nd against the Jaguars. And even before that game, you had the game against the Cowboys, which they were lucky to beat the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are a joke of a team. I'm not here to rip the Steelers. You have to respect the Steelers no matter how down of a year that they have. But the Steelers have not played great football as of late. And yesterday we could talk about, how the Browns narrowly escaped them. So what? They did narrowly escape them. That's all that matters. They're back in the playoffs for the first time. It took 17 weeks. The Browns needed all 17 weeks to be able to end what they have not been able to accomplish in 18 years, and that is get back to the playoffs. I predicted 12 wins to start the year, Kev. You laughed at me. You looked at me like I was crazy. And to be honest, they could have won 13. Had they beat the Jets and the Raiders, 2 games they should have won, they're sitting at 13 wins, but that's besides the point. Point is yesterday's game meant nothing outside of the fact that the Browns have punched their ticket to the playoff. As a Browns fan, I'm not going to gloat and say we beat the Steelers. We didn't beat the Steelers. That wasn't the Steelers. Just like it wasn't the Browns that lost to the Jets 2 weeks ago, because that wasn't the main roster. That wasn't the main roster that the Browns beat for the Steelers yesterday. The real game, the real matchup, the real rosters, COVID pending, are going head-to-head coming up this Sunday night. And, this has been a strange year for the Cleveland Browns. But, Kev, they're a good football team. This is an 11-win team. Rip them all you want. All right? Rip them up. Bengals fans making fun of the Browns every chance they get. The Cincinnati Bengals were swept by the NFC East. Let that sink in for you. That fan base is trying to rain on my parade of the Browns making the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. I'll get to them later, but this is fun. Like the Steelers are favored by 4. I'm surprised. That's a close line. What do you think?
I think
that's a close
fair.
line.
I think that's fair based off the way that both teams have been playing going into the playoffs. We can talk about the Steelers sitting, T.J. Watt and Cameron Haywood and Big Ben and all that type of stuff, but the Browns went out and won the game, because you can think back to a year ago where Duck Hodges was the quarterback that beat the Browns in the last game of the regular season, when both teams basically had nothing to play for. So you can look at that and say, well, the Steelers didn't have anything to play for, but guess what? The Browns had something to play for and they got to accomplish. So you got to give them kudos for handling their own business as opposed to, kind of backdooring their way into the playoffs. So that's 1. 2, it's going to be a great game on Sunday night. I mean, the NFL believes this is going to be a good game because that's why they're putting it on Sunday night. Sunday night football is the primetime spot that everybody's going to be watching this game. I'm locked in. You're going to be locked in. It's going to be a rock'em sock'em game. It's going to be some bloodshed out there. It's going to be people hopefully not getting their hammers ripped off or anything like that, but it's going to be a hard-fought game, and whoever the best team is going to win.
All right, 457-9464. We have a few moments for calls and reaction before we head to Paul Keels coming up at 5:15 to switch gears to talk Buckeyes. We'll get back into Browns around the corner. But 457-9464, Browns back in the playoffs after 18 years. And, a few years ago, the Browns drafted Baker Mayfield, and they were ripped for that. Baker was Hayfield. Hayfield. He was the butt of everyone's jokes for 2 years now, 3 years now, and yet here he is. You could say, the run game led them to the playoffs, but Kev, I'm going to tell you right now, that run game is fantastic. It's one of the best in football, but they're not getting to where they are right now if they don't have Baker Mayfield. If they don't have Baker Mayfield, they're not in this situation. If they don't have the run game, Baker Mayfield wasn't going to get them to this situation without the run game, but that's why this is a very good team, offensive team. Defensively, they have a lot of holes, but excuse me, sorry about that. But all Cleveland has to do, I know this sounds going to be the dumbest analysis in the history of sports radio. All they have to do is outscore the Steelers, right? Whoever has the most points. Now, it's up to the offense, because I don't think that defense is going to stop Big Ben and the Steelers enough to make this game comfortable. I think it's going to be a back and forth. I think you're going to see both offenses make mistakes at times, but as long as Baker plays within himself and the offense and doesn't let the moment get to him, as long as he doesn't try to be superhero Baker and try to play out of his element, he's thrown 1 interception in 8 games.
Yeah, the last interception.
Single-digit interceptions after throwing 20-plus last year.
Last interception he threw was against the Bengals on that play where OBJ got hurt.
That is crazy to me. I mean, that is, and now he's fumbled the ball a lot. I'm not going to ignore those issues, but my goodness, if you want to talk about a turnaround, that's quite the turnaround. But it's going to be up to Baker. You know what you get with the run game. You know what you get from your receivers. I'm still, even with the consistency from Baker, I still hold my breath every time he drops back. This is his first playoff game, Kev. It's his first playoff game.
I think the no crowd thing is working to the Browns' favor. If this was a regular playoff game at Pittsburgh at night, Renegade playing every third down, crowd in there waving the terrible towels, I think that Browns fans will have something to worry about. But without the crowd being there, I think this is basically a pick'em game. to be perfectly honest, the way the Browns have been playing going into the playoffs versus the way the Pittsburgh Steelers have been playing on offense, I think it's a pick'em game. Anybody can win this game. And let's be clear, man. And as big and bad as Kansas City has been, throughout this season, anybody from the AFC can go. Anybody. The last, quote unquote, the last team in the playoffs has 11 wins. You know what I'm saying? So think about it like this. If they were still under last year's format for the playoffs, a 10-win team wouldn't make the playoffs, and an 11-win team wouldn't have made the playoffs from the AFC. So I was totally against opening up the playoffs. I was like, well, that's stupid. Why would you open it up to another team? Now I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, look, this 11-win team would have been left out. That just seems wrong. And then you look what's going on in the NFC. You obviously have the NFC least champion in there with the Washington football team with a losing record, and the Bears with a losing record in the playoffs. So the AFC, NFC is two different worlds going on right now.
It is. And again, the one thing that is going to be interesting about this is how does Baker Mayfield handle the pressure of playing in his first playoff game? You know what, though? You know what's going to make my day? Watching Baker get his first playoff win and all the Bengals fans who talk so much smack about how we've been to 5 straight playoffs. Baker is going to do this Sunday what the Bengals couldn't do in the 5 straight years they went to the playoffs, and that's get a victory. And it is going to be the funniest thing in the world. I cannot wait. Kev. It is going to be fantastic watching Baker Mayfield lead the Browns to a victory over the Steelers at Pittsburgh on Sunday. Now, you're not going to agree. You're a Steelers fan, but Bengals fans, it's going to be so great. I don't care how petty I'm being. It's New Year, same me. I don't even care. Go Browns.
I got a question for you. We can answer it when we come back. You can only pick one. The Browns beat the Steelers on Sunday, or Ohio State beats Bama in the national championship game.
I need time to ponder on that.
And I'll reverse it. I'll say the Steelers beat the Browns and, Buckeyes beat Bama. So I'll play too.
All right. That's a fun little dumb game, but, but it will be amazing. I mean, literally, oh, yeah, we went to 5 straight playoffs. We're not as big a joke as the Browns. The Browns about to get a playoff win. Browns about to win. They're going to get a playoff win on Sunday. I feel it.
Feel it in your bones?
Yeah, I feel it in my bones, my big bones. All right, folks. We're going to get back into the Browns talk. We have Browns callers on hold, I promise. Your calls will be the rest of the show after our conversation with Paul Keels coming up around the corner. Paul Keels, longtime voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes. He had the call for the Buckeyes win over Clemson in the college football playoff semifinals in the Sugar Bowl. And now him, as well as the Ohio State Buckeyes, prepping for a national championship matchup with Alabama. Voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels, joins us next. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy, a high near 40. Tonight's going to be cloudy with a chance of snow, a low around 30. And tomorrow will be cloudy with snow, a high near 40. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Propane. 98% of their customers recommend Cullet. If you wouldn't recommend your current supplier, check them out at culletpropane.com.
You decided to upgrade your outdoor deck. So you ordered the essentials: a power washer, a set of patio chairs, and a shiny new grill. And you use your Bank of America Cash Rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put towards your most essential deck addition: a bird feeder. Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents. And Doug.
Okay, class, let's bump it up to 9.
Come on, Limu, keep pedaling. We got to build our endurance to let more people know that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need.
Pick up the pace, bird legs.
Hey, don't talk to Limu like that.
I'm not, I'm talking to you.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Get a customized quote at libertymutual.com.
Buying some pretzel sticks?
Excuse me?
This is your wake-up call from TracFone Wireless.
Okay.
What if you didn't eat all those pretzel sticks by the end of the month, so this store took them back?
Good luck.
That's how some wireless companies are with your data, but TracFone Wireless gives you unlimited carryover data with active service, so you keep what you pay for. Plans start at $20 a month.
Wow, that's cool.
Sir, are you bothering the customers?
Yeah, hang on.
This is your wake-up call, people. TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control.
Available at major retailers. See terms and conditions at TracFone.com.
The spread of COVID-19 is still unchecked across the nation, and you need to keep your family safe. Make a new habit and check your temperatures twice a day, once before dinner and before leaving home in the morning. You can't afford to take chances, so use the exercise. You can count on Exergen to keep your family safe 24 hours a day.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language like French, Spanish, or Russian, but thought it would be too difficult and time-consuming? Then go to Babbel.com and try it for free. Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel uses a modern conversation-based technique that makes language engaging, fun, and memorable. It starts by teaching you words and phrases. Then, sentences gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations about real-life topics. Babbel is created by language experts who use the spaced repetition method to help you learn quickly and remember what you learned. With Babbel, you can speak a new language. Babbel, language for life. Start the new year with a new language. Get up to 60% off now at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. We are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes. In a week from tonight, we'll have Ohio State and Alabama, the national championship game. Only one more game left for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and we're hoping at the end of that last game, they're hoisting a national championship trophy high and above their head, and we're really looking forward to that. And, of course, you can catch all of that action right here on Dayton's home of the Buckeyes, 1410 Wing AM. And, well, a voice that you're very familiar with that's going to be calling all the action. Longtime voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Paul Keels, joining us now. Paul, welcome in, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, Justin. How you doing?
Good. I appreciate you taking time and hanging out with us. Quite the weekend, quite the start to the new year. Let's kick it off with this. Ohio State over Clemson. We talked about it a lot today. It's not that we're surprised that they beat Clemson. We've always known that they're good enough to beat Clemson, but it's the way that they did it. What was your biggest takeaway from the Buckeyes' performance over the Tigers on Friday night?
Well, that was the same thing that a lot of us kept thinking around here. The fact that they, really handled them pretty easily. And, if it weren't for a few other things, it could have even been a wider margin. But, really, Justin, it was a perfect scenario facing a team that caused so much disappointment to them last year. I think it was a great motivating factor. And also, let's not discount the fact that, yes, Ohio State beat Northwestern and won the Big Ten championship, but, probably didn't look as impressive as everybody thought they would be. And, the short number of games led to a lot of folks wondering, was it legitimate that they should be in the playoff field? And, I think there was just a lot of internal motivation for these players to go out there and, play well against Clemson because of last year, but play well because of all of the opportunities that were lost in so few games.
It's interesting. Keith Byers hosts a show with us here, and one thing him and I talked about was, and he brought it up, that there's a lot of parallels back to 2014. And at first I didn't think so, but then he started bringing up how the one parallel between this potential championship run and the one in 14 was the strong emergence of the run game. Keep in mind, back in 2014, Zeke Elliott had a great 2014, averaged 100+ yards a game. It's not like he was playing bad, but he doubled his yardage totals in the final 3 games of the season, and that's basically what we're seeing now from Trey Sermon. The story of the game was Justin Fields and his toughness coming back after that huge hit, but Trey Sermon, the run that he is on, no pun intended, from what he did in the Big Ten title game and what he did against Clemson. We're talking a lot of Justin Fields, but Trey Sermon is one of the main reasons, too, that we saw that explosive offensive performance against Clemson on New Year's.
Justin, we started to see some of it in the second half of the Michigan State game, too. And, a lot of people wondered, number one, what was the running game going to be like without J.K. Dobbins? And, Master Teague is a very serviceable tailback, and we saw some doses this year, some explosiveness. Not like a J.K. Dobbins, but, what Master Teague brings to it. And then, he got banged up in the Northwestern game. And that really kind of put a lot of the load on Trey Sermon. So it allowed him to get into a good rhythm. But, let's remember, both those two, Sermon and Teague, are both coming off of injuries. Teague with an Achilles injury in the spring and Sermon with a knee injury this last year at Oklahoma. So the opportunity really opened up. But, I'm sure that those two players plus the coaches would tell you it's the offensive line as well with the way they played. And Justin, think about this. The last 3 games Ohio State has played, they've had to play down a man or in some cases more than a man on their offensive line. So their depth and their development has really helped that. But Trey Sermon is really an incredible role right.
You talk about the offensive line, but also the defensive line for the Buckeyes, especially the guys inside the middle. Haskell Garrett had a dominant game. Just talk about their performance against Clemson.
I think that certainly Haskell Garrett and Tommy Togia, guys, they've gotten attention because of performances in individual games, but what they've done over the course of the whole season is really big. Just occupying blockers, allowing the linebackers to make plays, stuffing the run. Tommy Togia had a career game at Penn State, but he's really continued it, maybe not from a sack standpoint. And Haskell Garrett is such an incredible story, playing the way that he has. When you consider this summer, he was shot in the face. He had a bullet that went in one cheek and out the other, and he manages to be out there playing in the season opening game and getting a sack. So, there was a lot of, I don't know if concern's the right word, but questions about this defensive line. They didn't have a headline star like either of the Bosa brothers or Chase Young, but I think when you look at what those two young men have done, Tyreek Smith, Jonathan Cooper, it's a defensive line that really was disruptive against Clemson.
We have longtime radio voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Paul Keels, with us here on the Justin Kinner Show with Kevin Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio. Ohio State, Alabama national championship game a week from tonight. And Paul, we'll get to that in a moment. But Kevin and I were just discussing, if Ohio State does go on to win this national championship, I labeled it as this would be the most difficult championship that the Buckeyes have ever won due to everything that they've had to face this season. We started talking about 2014 with the third string quarterback, 2002 with the real talented Miami team. But this year, if you think about the big wins that they've had this year, I was dramatic with this, but I said the biggest win of the season for Ohio State was not Clemson, it wasn't Northwestern, it wasn't Indiana, it was the win over their conference, the win, the opportunity to play this season was the biggest victory they had. If they go on to win this national championship, Paul, where would you rank this as far as the most difficult championship in program's history?
Well, I think in its own way, it would be one of the most difficult, and winning it in spite of the Big Ten. Because, in August and September, we didn't think there was going to be a football season. And, also considering the fact that, they had games canceled because of virus issues with themselves and with opponents. The stop and start that they had, it really kept this team from being able to get into a good groove. And let's also not forget, too, they didn't have the non-conference games where a lot of times with a big lead, you get a chance to play a lot of younger players. You get a chance to play a lot of backup players. They didn't have spring football. So, I think in its own way, there's every reason to say that it's been one of the most difficult seasons that Ohio State's had. And if they're able to put a championship onto that, certainly that would be worth discussion.
The game was on Friday. We partied all day on Saturday and Sunday, and now it's Monday. And a week from today, they're playing in the national championship game. What do you guys think about this quick turnaround from the semifinal to the national championship game?
Well, I think ever since we've gotten to the playoff system, it's been about this kind of a time frame. But the quicker turnaround is from the conference championship, the first semi. But, they got a chance to play. That's all anybody wanted. And I think the good thing about it is it allows them to try and maintain some rhythm. You'd like maybe another few days for guys that are banged up a little bit to be able to recover. But, the thing that was impressive is if we saw Ohio State play on Friday night, the best game they played all year, and against the most talented opponent that they played all year. So hopefully the quick turnaround, a little more than a week allows them to maintain some of that rhythm.
Paul, with Alabama coming up again, and the other reason to go back to what we were talking about earlier, as far as if this could potentially be the most difficult national championship they've ever won, on top of everything the Buckeyes have had to endure this season, you also just faced the number 2 team in the country in Clemson, and now you have the number 1 team in the country in Alabama. With this talented Alabama team, what is it that you're looking at in this matchup that separates it from the Clemson matchup? What are some of the differences in this Bama team versus what they just faced in Clemson, and how do they match up in your opinion?
Well, I think that certainly the thing that concerns you if you're an Ohio State fan is this defense could play as well as they did against Clemson and still have issues against Alabama. They have so many threats that they can throw at you, whether it's the quarterback, Mac Jones, whether it's Najee Harris running the ball, whether it's Devontae Smith. And, now word coming out that Jalen Waddle, who they lost early in the season, is apparently going to start practicing at receiver, and there's a possibility he might play. So, I think that Alabama has the potential to have maybe more individual threats than what Clemson has. And that doesn't take anything away from Clemson. That's an incredibly talented football team. And Alabama may be on the hook a better defensive football team as well. So I think that's the thing that maybe concerns you. This Ohio State team could play like they did Friday and still be in a real dogfight, not be able to have as easy time as they did. But you wouldn't expect anything less from an Alabama team, from a Nick Saban team, or from a national championship game.
You're one of the best at your job for obvious reasons, and you're very good at painting the picture with words. And I want you to paint a picture for us here. I can't think of any great way to explain what we've witnessed from what Ryan Day has done in taking over for Urban Meyer. When everyone was excited about Ryan Day taking over, I was deemed being negative because I said, look, I don't want to get my hopes up because you don't just replace not an all-time program great, but one of the all-time greats in Urban Meyer. And yet here we are, Ryan Day, year number 2, Big Ten title, first 2 years, college football playoff first 2 years, and now in year 2 playing for a national championship. You've seen the transition from Urban Meyer to Ryan Day. Just in your own words, how great of a job has Ryan Day done?
It's been phenomenal. And really, Justin, it started in 2018. If you remember the 3 games that he was the acting head coach when Urban Meyer was suspended. That's where he really got on a lot of people's radar, even though folks had high regard for him when he was first hired after a couple of years in the NFL. But what he did in those 3 games, and not just those 3 games, remember, Ryan had to be the acting head coach through all of the summer camp that year. And that's what really got him on people's radar. He's done a phenomenal job. He's obviously, really in tune to what quarterbacks do, being the position that he played in college, and that was his position coach when he came here. But I think what Ryan Day, and the other thing he's been remarkable at that maybe doesn't get talked about enough, the people that he brought in on his coaching staff when he first became the permanent head coach, the folks that he brought in, some of them are no longer here, like Jeff Hafley and Mike Yursich, but he's done a phenomenal job at putting the great pieces together in that coaching staff, getting Kerry Combs to come back and coach the secondary and be, co-defensive coordinator. He's done a phenomenal job. And on top of all of that, he's done it being, for our business, it's been great. He's so media friendly and media accessible and is just such a wonderful guy. He's one of those people, in our business, you're not supposed to root for people because of who they are. But Ryan Day's the exception to that. You want to root for him to have success because he is such a good guy.
Paul, before we let you go, we talk about how different of a season this has been for everyone in any capacity when it comes to the sports landscape due to COVID-19. But how different of a year has this been for you? I know as a fan, it's weird watching these big games on the big stage with limited fans. And it's tough to, a big moment happens and we're used to the crowd just on their feet. And then there's only a couple thousand fans in the stands. For you as a broadcaster, I know you feed off the energy of the crowd as well in these big moments. Just how different has this been for you, whether you're broadcasting remotely or even calling a playoff game like you just did, when what you would assume would be a packed house to having limited capacity? How different of a year has this been for you professionally from a broadcaster perspective?
Well, it's been different and it's been challenging, Justin. All of the away games, including last Friday and this coming game, we're doing remotely. So it's a challenge when you're not seeing the game in person. You're not able to see substitutions. You can't always see yard lines. You don't have a good gauge when penalty flags come, what it might be. It's a real big challenge. But even the 3 home games we did with no fans there was a different feel to that. But yeah, doing these games remotely and a lot of announcers, I think about half the Big Ten announcers did away games remotely. About half of them did not. It's a challenge, and we understand why we have to do it that way. It's our company's wish for health and safety. But it's been very, very different. I can tell you that, hopefully as everything rolls through with more progress in 2021, myself and the guys I work with in our booth, we look forward to actually being in a booth. We look forward to actually being at a live game, being able to call it that way. A lot of folks have put a lot of work in to provide us what we need to do these games remotely. And it'll be, there's a disappointment that we're not going to be able to see the national championship game at broadcast in person. But we're still going to have the opportunity to try and make it the best thing that we can do, doing it remotely from Columbus, what's being played in Florida. It's been a challenge, but there have been people that have had bigger challenges.
All right, longtime radio voice for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Paul Keels, good enough to join us and hang out with us here on the Justin Kinder Show with Kev Nash on 1410 Wing AM. Paul, you're a busy guy. I know you got a big game you're prepping for. You're also doing basketball as well, so the work never stops, and that's a good thing with everything that happened in 2020. Paul, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. We look forward to hearing your call a week from tonight in the national title game.
All right, fellas, take care.
All right, there he is, Paul Keels. I appreciate his time and hanging out with us today. But man, you can't challenge those pipes, man.
When we dialed him up, man, when he answered the phone, I always like to let him know who's calling, and you hear the voice, and I most wanted to say, "Hey, it's really you, man."
I just want to
sound like you.
I want to get out a menu and just order something from a menu. I want to, you know what I mean? All right, folks, 457-9464. We threw a lot at you today. We talked, of course, a ton of Ohio State college football playoff reaction, national title game, Ohio State, Alabama. If you just tuned in, you just missed Paul Keels. Don't worry, we will have all of that up and ready for you to download and subscribe. So go and subscribe to Justin Kinder Show podcast in your Apple, iTunes, Google Play Store. You'll get access to our show in its entirety, as well as select segments and all interviews, including the one we just did there with Paul Keels. Tomorrow's show, big one lined up. We got Brian Billick, former Ravens Super Bowl winning head coach. We'll talk Cleveland Browns and then AFC North with him. And we'll also have ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz to talk more college football. We got a lot your way coming this week. Justin Kinder, Kev Nash. More of the Justin Kinder Show with Kev Nash, Kinder and Kev next. Don't go anywhere.
Roosters would like to thank all of our loyal guests and all the loyal Buckeye fans for your support this year. Because of you, we've been able to stay open and keep our award-winning team employed. Our team members go above and beyond and are dedicated to providing you and your family the safest dining experience possible, while still providing a fun, casual atmosphere to relax, laugh, and enjoy our award-winning food. Roosters, the official wing sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
Hi, Joey Beckett here at Buckeye Ford in Sydney, home of the Works package. We'll change the oil and filter, rotate the tires, check the brakes, test the battery, and check all the fluids and filters. Still starting at just $39.95. And ask us about our double take tire specials: Goodyear, Michelin, BF Goodrich, Kelly, and other quality tires. Buckeye Ford in Sydney, exit 92 off of I-75. We'll see you soon.
Do you have an old sports program, baseball, photo, ticket, or game-used equipment just collecting dust? Sports Investments wants to buy your sports memorabilia. They're also interested in old sports cards and also buying political, aviation, and entertainment items. Bring your collectibles to Sports Investments and get a fair value on the spot. If you decide to sell, they'll pay you immediately. Sports Investments is the largest buyer of memorabilia and cards in the area since 1993. Sports Investments also feature the best selection of autographed memorabilia, sports cards, and other collectible items for sale, including all your favorites like Tiger Woods, LeBron James, Joey Votto, the Bengals, the Browns, the Big Red Machine, UC, XU, UK, NKU, UD, Louisville, Notre Dame, and Ohio State, just to name a few. You'll enjoy the experience of dealing with the Walter family. Call them at 513-891-5000. Email adam@sportsinvestments.com or visit them on Montgomery Road, right off I-275, just 40 minutes from WING.
Whether class is in school, at home, or a little bit of both, school goes on.
So Staples has everything your student needs at amazing prices. From notebooks to sanitizer, pencils to lap desks.
And this week, Staples marbleized comp books, 1-subject notebooks, and 12-count True Red No. 2 pencils are only 75 cents each.
Shop in store or pick up curbside.
Restock for school and save big right now at Staples.
Ends 1/9/21 while supplies last. Curbside available in most stores.
What can give you a competitive edge in today's red-hot housing market? Rocket can. That's because Rocket Mortgage can give you a verified approval. It could help your offer stand out. Rocket Technology provides a rock-solid verification of your income, assets, and credit, giving sellers greater confidence in you. Go to rocketmortgage.com or call us today at 8338-ROCKET.
A verified approval is based on an underwriter's analysis of your individual financial information, appraisal, and title report. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender license in all 50 states and MLSconsumeraccess.org number 33.
Staples has everything you need to start the year right, like home office furniture, the latest tech and organizational supplies, and all at amazing prices. Get a fresh start this year with big savings jeans from Staples.
Don't miss the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays at 3 p.m. on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
So you want to talk about outliers? Those guys are out. You're lucky that this thing's separating us. That's all I got to say. We're facts, though. I got your facts right here.
Listen, stream, and now watch. Search the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook to follow along.
2020 has been a hard-hitting year for all of us, but specifically for our veterans. Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission will be holding a new winter coat giveaway for all qualifying veterans on Friday, January the 15th at the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission, located at 627 Edwin C. Moses Boulevard, 4th floor, East Medical Plaza. For coat qualifying requirements, go to mcvsc.org or call 937-225-4801.
You have empty office space to fill. You know what you need, and you know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places that what you need and what you'd like, that might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week there's something new. If you need office furniture, Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half price and below manufacturer's suggested prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really. Desks from $50 to $5,000. File cabinets, $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Outlet. With 87,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. 2 locations. One at 23 McOil Street, Dayton. The other, Uniques Unlimited on South Dixie. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Saturday, 10 to 4.
Carmen's startup found an angel investor, but now they're asking for a miracle from her development team.
Hello, this is Carmen. That's exciting news. I guess we could launch early.
It's time to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR 2019. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Give me a call for an all-cash offer at 614-362-2000, 614-362-2000.
What can give you a competitive edge in today's red-hot housing market? Rocket can. That's because Rocket Mortgage can give you a verified approval. It could help your offer stand out. Because when you find the perfect home, you don't want to lose it to anybody else. Rocket Technology provides a rock-solid verification of your income, assets, and credit, giving sellers and their agents greater confidence in you. We've already helped over 1 million clients just like you reach their home financing goals this year alone. So remember this, what can help you buy the home you really want? Rocket can. Go to rocketmortgage.com or call us today at 8338-ROCKET. That's rocketmortgage.com or call 8338-ROCKET.
A verified approval is based on an underwriter's analysis of your individual financial information, appraisal, and title report. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states at MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
With Allstate, you can really save. Find out just how much you can save today. Visit allstate.com or call an agent to get a quote.
There are many ways to catch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. You can catch it live right here on 1410 Wing AM, or you can stream the show at wingam.com. But now we have another way that you can take in the show. You can now watch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live on ESPN Dayton's Facebook page. Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER and ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle.
Download the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash in your Apple iTunes, Google Play Store. Again, after every show, we upload the show in its entirety, as well as select segments and all interviews, including the one we just did with Paul Keels, the longtime voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes. And appreciate him taking time and hanging out with us. Again, he's been on the run since that game. I mean, everyone's trying to get him on to, of course, preview Ohio State, Alabama. But what a strange year for him. He called that national championship game remotely. Like calling those games, not being there for those big events. I mean, that's what's crazy. Or not national championship playoff game, whatever.
Semifinal.
I mean, these guys. I mean, that's tough to call a game when it's tough to call a game remotely. It's even tougher when there's no fans. Like sometimes, like you call, like the way you call a game, you're feeding off the crowd energy. You're feeding off the runs in the games. Yes, it's the flow of the game, but the flow of the game a lot of times is dictated by crowd energy. And a game could be swayed one way or another. I mean, there is such thing as home field and home court, home ice advantage. Crowds do sway results of games, and that's a good thing. I mean, fans are part of the game. That's why go to a UD game whenever there's actually fans in there. Like those fans make a difference. Like it is a huge difference. I don't think it's a secret at all that UD is playing a lot of tight games this year that they normally would win a lot more comfortably because they are used to playing off of that fan energy. Mm-hmm. UD has been impacted big time by not having fans because even when they play on the road, UD has one of the best traveling fan bases in the country. Not saying UD has a fan, home court advantage on the road everywhere they go, but more times than not, there is a good pocket of UD fans that just push that team, that help give them that energy, that they get that extra juice. They have it everywhere they go. NCAA tournament, it's a home court advantage. Maui was a home court advantage. Everywhere UD goes, it's a home court advantage. They don't have that this year. That's a team there that is learning to create their own energy, and I do believe that does impact their games, which is why they're playing in a lot of close games. They lost a bad game to LaSalle last week. They narrowly escaped George Mason. They go on a deep late run to beat George Mason. These are games that UD normally just runs teams off the court with, and they're not rebuilding. They have force. You're not rebuilding when you have seniors. Mm-hmm. It is tough to play without fans there.
It's an adjustment.
It is. And you can make fun of schools like Wright State and others. Oh, no one's going to go to that game. You know which programs are thriving right now? Who are used to now. Again, we can laugh and joke. And by the way, I don't think playing in front of 5,000 fans on an average basis, which is actually very good for mid-major basketball, that's not playing in front of nobody, but I'm not going to get into that heated debate about it. But programs like that, it's not about playing it. And they want to play in front of fans, don't get me wrong, but they don't depend on that. Those teams know how to win games and play basketball with or without fans. Right. There are some teams like UD who depends on the fans so much that it does impact their play. I don't think it's a hot take. I'm not taking a shot. I do think that by not having fans at UD Arena, it has drastically impacted their production on the floor. It impacts games. They don't have a home court advantage at UD Arena. I don't care how nice the padded seats are in the lower bowl. There is no home court advantage other than the fact that you were comfortable and got to sleep in your own bed the night before. That's where the home court advantage ends. So some teams are adjusting to it and other teams aren't. But I do believe that has impacted the Flyer season, not having fans. And I got off into a tangent there, but it is interesting as a broadcaster for Paul Keels to not have those fans to feed off of calling a game. It is a much different role for him this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, real quick on the fans, think about it in NBA. How many times have you seen a team go up 2-0 and then they go on the road, and that first game, the fans of the team that's down 0-2 are going crazy and lifts their team to get that one victory so that they don't get swept and everything like that. And then come out for game 4 and the favorite team does what they're supposed to do because they adjust to the crowd noise and everything like that. Fans definitely have an impact on games, especially in college basketball, just college sports in general, especially football and basketball, man. So, I'm with you 100% there.
All right. Keep in mind, too, speaking of college basketball, the first net rankings, when you talk about those quad 1, 2, 3, 4 wins, the first net rankings, which replaced the RPI system a few years ago. I remember having, talking about that. It's funny when that came out because there's a lot of math involved. That's why I laugh. Baseball, I always rip baseball because I'm like, if you want your fans to fall in love with your sport, you got to make sure that you don't require it, that you don't require a fan base to go take a high level math class in college just to be able to follow your sport. And then in college basketball, there's this net ranking system that, it is difficult to follow. But again, this is the system that a lot of teams build their schedule off of. The Dayton Flyers, Neil Sullivan and company, they build their entire non-conference schedule off of opportunities to get these quad 1, quad 2, these high-level wins. And it's tough to get. It's tough to do, but they have so much weight on these net rankings, which is the premier rankings that are used to seed the NCAA tournament, which big news came out today about that, which I'll touch on in a moment. But the first initial net rankings came out today, earlier this afternoon, and some interesting things that Ohio State coming in at number 28, Wright State coming in at 80, UD coming in at 111. So there you go. Wow. Again, I'm just throwing it out there.
Reporting the news.
I'm reporting the facts. It's not Kinner's opinion that Wright State is ranked higher than UD. I'm just reading what's in front of me. Wright State coming in at number 80, and the first net rankings that come out. A lot of basketball have to be played. They lost to a bad Oakland team this past Sunday, but clearly it didn't impact them as much as losing to a bad LaSalle team. So I'm just saying, when I got tortured. I got torched on Twitter and Facebook a few weeks ago when I said that I thought Wright State was, could beat UD, and the people lost their minds. Look, this is a good Wright State team. I like to make sure that people know that. I like to make sure that people realize that. So yes, I'm annoying and obnoxious with it, but I'm just dropping facts. It's not my opinion anymore. The numbers are backing it up. I'm just throwing it out there.
Since we're talking about college basketball,
let's continue talking.
I'm sure your Twitter timeline is about to blow up a lot. Did you notice, college basketball coaches aren't coming out here saying, oh, that team is ducking us. They really don't have COVID issues like they were doing in college football. Have you noticed that?
The only reason I don't think that's the case right now is because it's so tough to get games that coaches are just glad they're having any games to begin with. I don't think teams can afford to duck teams. For one, in college basketball, I don't think you fear – well, that's not true. There is fear. There is reason why one team won't play the other. But again, we're past that. That is the argument. You only have those debates in November, December. It's January. I got to learn to put that debate to bed, in November, December. But I don't believe teams fear playing one another, the ones who, actually have a backbone. I don't believe that those, like Duke and Kentucky play each other. Like, they're not afraid to play. Michigan State and Duke, Michigan State, Kentucky, North Carolina, these schools play each other all the time. They don't duck one another. College football, Clemson's not playing Ohio State in the regular season. They don't have the guts to call Alabama to put them on.
It was conference opponents saying teams were ducking each other.
We just started conference play about 2 weeks ago. And again, I still think it's one of those where –
no, I'm talking about in football.
Oh, in football.
In football, they were, college football coaches were coming out alleging that other teams were ducking this beatdown that they were going to get. And I just thought it was bogus to say that, but I just thought it was weird that college basketball coaches aren't saying what college football coaches were saying. I think it's just a line of trying to use the right term without sounding like a high and mighty type of person. But, it's like, how can it be that way in football and not the other way in basketball as well? Like, I think there's a level of intelligence that's being displayed by the college basketball coaches that wasn't displayed by the college football coaches. I think college football coaches think the world revolves around them and their program and things that they got going on, where college basketball, they kind of understand like this is a global pandemic, and if a team has COVID issues, a team has a COVID issue. It isn't like, oh man, they're ducking us, they don't want to come play us, they're scared of us. I just think it's weird that college football coaches actually think that way versus the college basketball coaches. And not only that, is college basketball coaches at the same program, that are saying that.
Keep in mind too, go back and look at the timing of when those things started later in the season, not at the beginning. At the beginning, everyone needed games. As the season went on, Clemson started bitching and complaining about Florida State and others because Florida State had known their playoff chances are done, big bowl game chances done. So you started seeing a little bit of that pettiness kick in late in the year when Clemson's like, we don't need to play this. I don't need to play you. We are. Our playoff resume is in the bag. We've already played Notre Dame. Sure, we've lost, but we have enough wins under our belt. Trevor Lawrence is back. We were in the ACC title game. I think the timing of a lot of those was they had nothing to lose, so they weren't going to fight to play it, but they were going to, I still think there was pettiness involved late, but the pettiness will come probably later coming up. You think? I do. I think that right now there's so much unknown in basketball. Football, they were stubborn. I think football knew we were getting a playoff one way or another. if a team totally got knocked out because of COVID, they'd replace them with somewhere. We knew that. I'm not sure how stubborn basketball is until today when they officially announced that the entire NCAA tournament will be held and played entirely in Indiana. This, of course, coming from Myron Metcalf earlier this morning, that the NCAA will host its entire postseason men's basketball tournament in Indianapolis and surrounding areas with a bubble-like format. Bravo. Bravo. Because my biggest complaint about college football was that they waited too long to make these, they just didn't care. And right now they're holding their breath if this national championship game gets played. College football is so lucky that Clemson and Ohio State got played and that Alabama and Notre Dame got played without any significant issues. I know that the offensive coordinator for Clemson missed the game. Some key players were out for some players, but no major players.
Tony Elliott, their OC, Harry Miller, offensive lineman for us, was out.
So if Ohio State and Alabama play on Monday night without any significant star players missing games due to COVID-19, college football is the luckiest SOB, and I'm making it sound like it's an individual person, but we don't know who's exactly running things. Mark Emmert's supposed to be the president of the NCAA. We have no clue what's going on. College football is going to be very fortunate to crown a champion a week from tonight without any significant black eye, technically, right? College basketball, they know that's going to be difficult to do, and kudos to them. You're not going to have a 68-team tournament and not have chaos everywhere due to COVID. I think it's smart to do this bubble. I haven't read this article completely. Obviously, April 3rd and 5th, the Final Four, the Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, that's where this is going to finish out at, and I think that's smart. I'm assuming there'll be some fans by the time we get to that point months from now. Who knows? But I'm sure Butler, I'm sure some other schools in those areas are going to be where you're going to see a lot of these games, NCAA tournament games being played.
Might as well play them at high schools.
I love the bubble. I love the bubble format. To be honest, high schools might provide a better atmosphere. Well, you don't want to cram people in. Never mind. Forget that. That wasn't
no fans.
Wasn't COVID approved.
No fans. Just play them at high schools. Forget it, man. That's, like you said earlier, man. The most important thing is obviously the safety of everybody, but to get the games in. You want to get these games in so you can, cash your check with CBS and everything like that. And I even see a situation where they even speed things up with the tournament instead of, how they started on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Why not? Go ahead and start it up on Wednesday. If we're all at the same place, man, we can just keep playing. There's no sense. We can play a game, take a day off, play a game, take a day off. Just keep on rolling.
Why don't we just do it? Let's just do this AAU style.
Yeah, you might as well.
Let's just do it this way. You know what I mean? Let's just play all damn day. We can forget knocking out rounds one. Forget knocking out rounds 1 and 2 in 4 days. Knock out rounds 1 and 2 in back-to-back days. Come on. These kids, come on. Timing is everything. Time is everything. The more time that you have between games, the more time COVID has time to creep in. To me, knock it out. That ain't going to happen, by the way, but I'm just saying. But I'm pumped. This is great news, by the way. I love the NCAA being proactive. I have not said that probably once since COVID took over not just our country, but our world a year ago around this time. Right now, I think about what we were doing a year ago at this time, by the way, for when we were crying and complaining about a flag and all this stuff being thrown in the semifinals between Ohio State and Clemson. Look how far we've come. Now we're playing in the national championship game and have a global pandemic just ruining everyone's life. How about that?
This is breaking news from the NBA. Kevin Durant facing 7-day quarantine under the league's protocols because of exposure to a person with COVID-19, sources tell ESPN.
Kevin Durant had it already.
Yeah.
This is a great way to test it out. Let him go back around the team, and then we'll find out that Kevin Durant might be the first person I ever heard of getting it again.
Oh, I saw it on the news. Yeah, this big story on ABC about.
Have people had it more than once?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But for real though, I believe those articles are about as real as some of the people who got it the first time. I don't know.
You not believing and you not buying it?
No. Where was this article? Where was this?
It was on what's the morning show on ABC?
See, you're making it up.
That's what
you don't even have a real name of a show. Oh yeah, that one show. That one show with the facts. Yeah. No, interestingly enough, but yeah, that would the NBA's off to a good start too, by the way. Games are being impacted by it, but they're still getting games in. It's not as chaotic as what we thought it was going to be, considering they left the
ball without Roker.
The one without Roker, my favorite show. I have no idea what that
You don't know who Al Roker is?
I know who Al Roker is. He's the fat guy that got skinny. I don't like when fat people get skinny. I don't find them as entertaining.
You're so
That's why Oprah's popularity just kind of goes up and down from time to time. It just changes from time to time. Who got? I don't like when fat comedians get skinny. It drives me nuts. I'm sure it's good for their health, but I don't like it. I don't find them as funny.
Seth Rogen, he did that.
Don't find I mean, look, I'm just saying, and we're I was just saying how we're having a good day today.
We're good on time. We're good on time. No
way, we're way off the rails here. Real quick, I want to go to this comment on Facebook. Eric Pugh on Facebook says, also, have we overrated Trevor Lawrence? Seems to me that he was the best quarterback prospect ever. Then he would have beaten the Tigers last year, and he would have gotten past the Buckeyes this year. He was outplayed by Burrow, and he was absolutely outplayed by Fields this year. First of all, let me say this about Trevor Lawrence. He was not outplayed, not necessarily played by Justin Fields this year. Justin Fields was able to have the success he did because of the run game. You know what Trevor Lawrence didn't have this past weekend? No run game. You know what Trevor Lawrence still accomplished? He threw for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence had himself a game. Clemson did not have themselves a game. Trevor Lawrence threw for 400 yards. Like, we're so caught up in the fact that the Buckeyes are playing in the national championship that we forgot that Trevor Lawrence decimated that secondary, and that's exactly what's most likely going to happen against Mac Jones and those receivers that we just talked about, because there's more weapons on Alabama's offense than what was on Clemson's, and whatever his name is, I'm all over the damn place now. Trevor Lawrence just threw for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I don't believe that Trevor Lawrence necessarily got outplayed. Clemson got outplayed. Trevor Lawrence did not get outplayed. Justin Fields had 393 yards, I believe. He nearly had 400 yards. He had 6 passing touchdowns. But again, that was complemented by the run game. So yes, I'm not crapping on Justin Fields. I'm just a Trevor Lawrence fan. I can't wait to see him play in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence is one of the best quarterbacks ever to play at the college level. And yes, he was outplayed by Joe Burrow last year, no doubt. No doubt. But that was his first loss in 2 years. And this,
so I always hate that. And no matter who it is or whatever, NFL or college football, like this quarterback outplay him. Well, you know what? They don't play against each other. He plays against his defense and they play against his defense.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest difference, and something I've been talking about on this show with Clemson, is the talent that they had last year is now in the NFL. Their linebackers are in the NFL outside of the dude that hit Justin in the ribs. He's the only returning starter on defense. Their linebacker core isn't what it was. Their defensive line isn't what it was. Their team just isn't what it was. And that's something that I've been screaming from the mountaintops. And I think they're coached up very well. And when you have a player of Trevor Lawrence's caliber, it kind of hides like your deficiencies. And I think that's what he did. He's that good that he hid their deficiencies. Like we talk about the receiver that turned our guy Wade around like a top stop. But guess what? This is his first. He's a senior. He's not only a senior, he's a 5th-year senior. This is his first time playing. Like, he couldn't get on the field any other year between Justin Ross and T. Higgins and all the other receivers that they had there. This is the first time actually playing. So is it him or is it Lawrence? No, it's Lawrence, because he couldn't crack the rotation in 5 years. So I think that Lawrence is really that good, and Ohio State was better, especially offensively. And we took advantage of that and won the game, not only with the running game, but the deep shots, running past suspect secondary that they got. I just think that Ohio State was that much better, and Trevor Lawrence is still going to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft.
Not if Ryan Day goes to Jacksonville. Jacksonville they're gonna pry Ryan Day away from the Buckeyes. You notice I didn't bring that up to old Paul Keels. I was thinking about what? Let's just focus on Monday. All right, folks.
We want him to come back.
I don't want him to come back, because then Urban Meyer comes back to Ohio State. Like, this is a perfect situation for Ohio State.
Oh, Lord.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, who have offered, or who apparently are targeting Urban Meyer turns it down. All right, then they go after Ryan Day, and they say, Ryan Day, look, we have $70 million in cap space. You're the number 1 overall pick. We'll draft. Everyone wants to take Trevor Lawrence. We'll give you Justin Fields. We'll draft Justin, and then Ryan Day will be like, hell no, give me Trevor Lawrence. Then that'd be real drama right there. You can't have that.
That would be drama.
But Ryan Day going to Jacksonville to take Justin Fields with him, and then have $70 million in cap space to spend and have some fun with, that would be intriguing, because then, well, Urban Meyer, he will coach again, this time at Ohio State. It's a long shot. Just throwing it out there. All right, folks, we're going to have fun this week building up to the Buckeyes in the national championship game a week from tonight. The Browns and the Steelers, Sunday Night Football, NFL wild card, NFL playoffs. 18-year drought comes to an end, and the Bengals fans making every excuse. How about this one more time on the way out? Eric Pugh says, well, if you don't get past the Steelers, you have not one right to say a thing to the Bengals fans. They lose, and they're still the same old Browns, and Baker sure hasn't looked good the last 3 weeks. The Browns are not the same old Browns. The same old Browns would find ways to lose games. They found a way to win games. They won 11 games. They're in the playoffs. And if they lose to Pittsburgh, which I don't anticipate, but if they do lose to Pittsburgh, it's not the same old Browns because the same old Browns don't play in the playoffs. These Browns do. And Baker Mayfield has played just fine as of late. Doesn't turn it over. Doesn't throw interceptions. Leads quarterback of an 11-win team in the playoffs, baby. 3 of the 4 teams in the AFC North are in the playoffs. Who's the 4th one that's not in? Have a great night, everybody. Until tomorrow, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kevin Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio.